Hey, everybody. Welcome to Squatch Talk. I'm Pat. And hello, YouTube. Hello, Anchor. Hello, Spotify and Apple Podcast. It's good to have all you guys here tonight. We appreciate it. And we're going to have a good show tonight. Some interesting discussion. Back with us tonight is Mr. Steve from Curious Cryptid, who was on our last show. And it's always good to have Steve on. He's an interesting guy. And then also we have Brent, who is the first time I've had him on the show. But he's got a lot going on too. It's going to be kind of a Pacific Northwest show, I think, and all because Leon might join us later, and so we might have some surprise guests tonight. But right. Yeah, thanks for tuning in tonight. I appreciate you guys being here, and of course, my panel, my little super panel tonight is Steve and Brent. How are you guys doing?
Oh, pretty good.
Doing great.
Awesome.
How's the snow up there, Brent?
Yeah, none yet, but I feel it's coming.
Yeah, I saw my buddy Jay Birch. He posted some snow from up there. I guess near. I guess he lives near like Mount St. Helens or something. I don't know, something crazy like that.
Yeah, he lives south of Mount St. Helens, which is more southern Washington State. I live more northern, and Steve is kind of central-ish type of area. But yeah, we're all still relatively close. I mean, what they get, we'll eventually get. We should get about maybe anywhere from 3 inches to a foot of snow, depending upon who you listen to.
Oh wow, a foot. Yeah, where I live here in North Georgia, if it snows 2 inches, it pretty much shuts everything down. So we're just not equipped. We're not equipped for it here. But it's fun. It makes it fun though. Everybody goes outside and plays in the snow, and it's a good time. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't really have a topic to start with, other than I thought maybe I would just lead out and talk about a couple of hoaxes, which of course by next week, anybody listening, next week probably won't even know what we're talking about, or it's already been forgotten, right? Because the hoaxes come and go so fast, except when sometimes they get regurgitated.
Recycled. They get recycled every 6 to 12 months. Yeah. And it's somebody new making the claims too.
Yeah. A year later, they'll get posted again.
There's always the true believers too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then it'll get shared around again. So it's almost like this spamming of the same hoax. So obviously, I mean, the two that have come out recently that have been shared around the most are the tooth DNA, that whole thing. So and whatever, like 97% human or whatever, blah blah blah, and then the dead baby Bigfoot. And I mean both of these things right off the bat were fairly obvious to me, especially the dead baby Bigfoot, which looked like, screw that one. That just looks like a rubber doll or something. It was fairly obvious, that
I did. Okay. I didn't completely escape that. I did see it. I just didn't click.
Yeah,
I didn't even bother to proceed past the original thumbnail type of picture of
right.
That's obviously not going to be real. But I mean, we got the experience, but there's a lot of people that have fell for it and is continuing to fall for it. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, and it's still being passed around, obviously. But so that was pretty ridiculous. That was almost on the level of Peter Kane. Of course, I'm sure you guys know who Peter Kane is. He's not a hoaxer. He just does satire.
Yeah, he does parody, which the next person you're going to talk about. The next person that you talk about with the tooth, I think, is more aligned with that. It's not that he's out there trying to hoax the Bigfoot community, get one over on us to show how stupid we are or gullible. I think he's just trying to make content for his YouTube channel. If you look at his YouTube channel, he goes from thing to thing to thing, and he's got the skill level of making the fishing lures and decorating them and all that fun stuff. So he's got the talent to kind of do that whole thing. And it's just, I feel that that's more of like one of the low tier hoax type of things of pranking, hoaxing, like TikTok type of content.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually give people like that more of a free pass because they aren't asking for money or, really trying to be nefarious about it. They're just like, oh, look at me.
Yeah.
No, they're just trying to grab clicks.
Yeah, exactly. Just making content for their viewers.
Yeah, and being somewhat of a troll. Like I even with Peter Kane, like I always felt like he was trolling the Bigfoot world. But then the parody and the satire got like so ridiculous that I'm like, okay, this is just funny. You actually have an audience to be funny. And the guy's he's weird, eclectic kind of comedian kind of guy. So
yeah, it's just his humor.
Yeah, exactly. And so I give him a total pass always. And but even people in the Bigfoot world will fall for some of Peter Kane's videos, even the more absurd ones. So that's disturbing to me. And
the people that fall for it, I usually notice, are usually within the first year or so of their journey into the whole Bigfoot phenomenon of really exploring it. So I feel it's like a lot of the noobs that are kind of getting buying into that type of stuff, and that's why it's good to just have alternatives to show what kind of more is likely going on versus that.
Yeah, I was kind of attracted to the tooth thing when people were starting to try to criticize the letter. And the funny thing to me was they were calling out the NDA in the letter. And heck, the NDA is probably the most believable part of the letter.
Really?
Yeah. I have talked to a couple of people who work in labs with the idea of learning more about how DNA work is done. All labs presume customer privacy. All labs operate on an NDA on their end with every sample.
Okay.
They assume they're doing law enforcement or medical analysis or things like that. And any customer has the same level of privacy. They will not share anything about a customer unless that agreement is explicitly amended either beforehand or some way down the road.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
The lab may, at their discretion, choose to have some level of non-disclosure with the client, depending on what's going on. They might not want exposure to a topic like this.
Yeah.
Unless they discover something interesting, then they're going to be all over the papers.
Yeah, maybe. And that's an even bigger discussion that I would love to get into. But you're right. Initially, especially if they're used to working with any kind of law enforcement, obviously that would have to be something that is they just sort of have an automatic mentality to they would never want to take a case that involved DNA and have it available to the public. That's all internal chains of evidence. Right. So that's automatic for them. Just boom, this is how we operate. And that's the other thing about labs is that people think you could just hey, I can go collect this thing. Oh, cool. I can put it in a tube. Oh, I'm wearing gloves. Yeah. And I don't know. I'm just going to take it to some DNA lab down the street from me. And it's most of that stuff just deals with crime. If you want to go to take something to a DNA lab that is say environmental DNA or high caliber species, fossilization, you better have 20 grand in your pocket because that's probably what it's going to cost you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you just don't go throwing test tubes to random DNA labs.
And I think it's important. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So I have a friend from my last software engineering gig who is actually doing DNA fingerprinting of fungi of the Northwest. He actually does his PCRs in his DNA lab at home, which is the second bathroom in his apartment. And he has a clean lab. He's done experiments to show that contamination isn't an issue. He does all his PCRs, and then he sends it out to another lab for sequencing.
Yeah, sequencing, which is not cheap. But with fungi, maybe it's a little more cheap. But if you're talking about bone marrow from a femur bone you can't identify, I mean, good luck.
Well, the sequencing is going to be more or less the same cost. The way things are done today is a lot easier than it was back in the day when Ketchum was doing things, and it's really more computing power now.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I'm sure
the alignment is relatively easy to do. So you go into I usually use the NIH databases. I reproduced all of Dr. Hart's analysis that he wrote about in his book. I reproduced all of that using the National Institutes of Health database, got all the same results. That's part of how science works, having people confirm your results.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. That's the important thing and the most lacking thing in Bigfoot research, because it seems like Bigfoot research, you don't need anybody else to verify it. You just need to go declare it online. You don't even really need to get it checked out by anybody. You just need to go declare it, and poof, there it is. And then they get so emotionally, defensive of their evidence that you can't even talk to them about it. Next thing you know, you're getting called a troll and terrible person.
They're invested.
Very
emotionally invested.
Exactly, and that's just the unfortunate thing, because that's the ass backwards way of doing things. It's like I think that whatever evidence we collect, we should get as many verified, quality people to verify what we're listening to or what we're seeing, what we're, to help build the, the evidence.
I agree. And that kind of leads me to my next point about these two hoaxes that we were just talking about, is that, listen, people, if you see it on a YouTube video, that's not where people will post incredible findings of Bigfoot. Highly doubtful. Now, maybe somebody would, maybe, but for the most part, just the fact that it's on YouTube and it's extraordinary evidence, supposed to be extraordinary evidence, then that immediately should be a red flag. Because I'll tell you this personally, if I get 20 minutes of footage of a Bigfoot tomorrow, it ain't touching YouTube. I'm not coming home and going, oh God, I got to put this on YouTube, man. Like,
I'm selling to TMZ, man. Honestly, I'm selling to TMZ. I'll get the most money.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get exposure. Well, here's what I'm gonna do if I capture something that I think is credible scientific evidence. I'm getting on a plane. I'm flying to Idaho. I'm strolling into Dr. Meldrum's office and plopping it down and going, now what? Like, I'm taking that to a higher place, and not just putting it out there to the Bigfoot world. Hey, look what I found. Look what I found. Take it maybe, like, if you did find an actual Bigfoot tooth or an actual Bigfoot hand or whatever, right? I'm taking it to Emory University, like, 50 miles away from me. One of the, a super high education where professionals can examine that evidence. Of course, I'm not going to take it to the police or the Department of Interior, right? But a place like Emory University, it would be safe. So same kind of thinking along the lines of like walking into Meldrum's office. So not YouTube. Why? Just the way I think about that kind of like real evidence type stuff.
Yeah, you'd expect it to go through a proper process of the scientific method of sorts, but like I say, the Bigfoot community is the one that bypasses all that and just goes for self-verification. And it's just the important thing is people have to, when they're coming into the subject or when they're watching a video, they have to learn the tools necessary to properly vet out what they're watching, like picking out those red flags. It's like, oh, well, he's not going to show us this, he's not going to show us the paper, or, just every video has, every hoax video has its red flags within it. Some of them are very difficult to find, if impossible to find, but they'll usually always expose themselves in one way or another. And it's just, I think it's just teaching people the tools necessary. Like, I can admit when I got into this about 5 years ago, I knew nothing about investigation skills so it's something I had to learn. It's a learning process as we progress into this subject. And I think that's what should be focused on more as far as discussion with, helping people understand, to give them the tools necessary to figure out what they're looking at.
That's one of the things I'm trying to do with my channel is just share the observations that I do, share the notebook, share the analysis of sounds. I don't think I have a single Sasquatch sound in my field notes there, but I'm showing you how to go about listening to what's there and trying to identify it.
And that's the important thing is what you're doing. And I'm sorry, I haven't had a chance to really get back and sit down and talk to you about that last one. It's ever since I had the kidney stones, it's just been catching up and been always behind. But I'm sorry about that. But
no problem. We'll talk later.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. It's just learning what you're actually looking at, and not posting something online which we hear all the time is it ends up being a coyote, but the person thinks it's a Bigfoot, but they won't back down that it's not a Bigfoot because they're so invested into the evidence.
Yeah.
Well, remember when you and I were standing there in Charlie listening to that coyote? What the hell is that?
Yeah, that was bizarre. It was like, I've never heard a coyote make that particular type of sound and constant. It's like, geez, what's it doing? Trying to probably get some or something. I mean, I don't know, but that was an interesting one, huh? It was good.
Well, it is because from my experience with coyotes, their language is extremely it's actually very complicated.
It is. If you go on, if you go on Joe, go. Sorry.
No, sorry. It's a little bit of a delay. Go ahead, Brent.
If you go on Joe Rogan, there's a guy who is a coyote expert, and he just talks about coyotes. That's all he does. And he talks about how coyotes have over 150 different sounds that they make to communicate to other coyotes. And they're still learning those. So when somebody says, oh, I've been in the forest my whole life and I know what coyotes sound like, bullshit, because this biologist is self-admitting we don't know all the sounds yet. We're still learning them. And coyotes are a great example of what I think it's, people misidentified as a Bigfoot. The coyote is a big culprit.
Well, what was fooling Brent and I was that most of the time, a lot of the time anyway, it sounded like a coyote, but there were a few times when the same tones were coming out and it sounded more like a shriek or a scream, like the coyote was being ripped in two.
Yeah, they are funny sounding animals. I'd say one of the funniest sounding animals in at least in the woods that I go in, here in this part of the country. And sometimes, man, if they're in a high position, really far away, their weird sounds get stretched out, through the sort of echoing through the valley.
And that's what we were hearing.
And it that sounds like a Bigfoot howl to me. I'm like, oh God, that sounds like a Bigfoot 3 miles away on a ridgetop, doing its thing. It could easily be a coyote.
Yeah, it happened to be in the direction of the drive out. So when I left Brent to camp there on the drive out, I rolled the window down and drove slow and got to the point where I was closest to the thing. It was probably only a couple 100 yards off the road, but from a mile closer to where it was, it sounded like a coyote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was and the thing is, the coyote kept doing it for almost an hour that night, just straight, that's what I fell asleep to pretty much, was that coyote just doing that.
Yeah, sometimes they won't shut up, which is annoying at 2:00 in the morning. I agree.
And then there was that scream you woke up to at 2:00 in the morning, which was the whole chorus, the whole clan of coyotes going off all at once.
Yeah, and that it goes to show you the importance of audio collection while you're on an outing or in an area that you're investigating, because that's how you find out what's going on in the area. You know, it's just Ben has been freed with Bigfoot Ops. You should have him on, Pat. He's a really good guy who I consider to be one of the more legit boot on the ground Bigfoot investigators, like one of the more legit people that I've ever come across. And he's, the way he does it, I think, is the way that we all should kind of be doing it in a lot of different ways. And one of his big focus is audio and the way he collects it, but more importantly, how he uses that data that he's collecting, so he knows where to kind of generally be, where the Bigfoots usually are. Hey.
Okay. Hi, Brent. Hi, Stephen. How you doing tonight? I can't see
Good.
Pat. He's always hiding. He's always hiding behind the monkey, which makes me wonder what he's doing with his monkey.
That is a juvenile Bigfoot you're looking at. That is no mere monkey.
Oh, is that the one that's posted? The dead juvenile baby.
That's a 3 foot tall juvenile Bigfoot.
Oh,
I have
wow.
a lot. Yeah, I can show you a lot more of that. I might pull it up later. So yeah, welcome to the stream, Leon. Good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. I just wanted to. I was just checking where you guys. I backed up the video so I could kind of catch up with what you guys were talking about. So I wanted to make sure I kind of knew what you guys were yakking about before I got online here. So. Yeah.
I mean, we started out with the 2 most obvious hoaxes in the Bigfoot world lately: the tooth DNA and the dead baby Bigfoot, and now we kind of plowed through that and some DNA stuff, and now we're talking about how easy it is for some people, maybe even some of us, to misinterpret like coyotes, because their language is so. It's a big language they actually have.
Well, I don't know if I use the word language.
Maybe that's not the right word to use.
Vocalization is probably more appropriate, I think, for that.
Yeah. So how they talk to each other, or however they are communicating with each other, and coyotes can sound freaking weird. They still weird me out when I hear them. When I'm camping and they come through the field and they're trying to flush out rabbits and they're hooting and hollering, and it almost makes me aggressive, to be honest with you, because it's so disturbing, really, to me. Yeah. I don't want them around me. I mean, I always take my dogs out in the woods. So I got 2 little dogs, they could easily get snatched up by a coyote. So I'm very protective of my camp, no matter what it is, a bear or a Bigfoot for that matter. Very protective of my camp.
So your dogs are named Burrito and Chimichanga?
Nope. They're two Chihuahuas that could take out an entire pack of coyotes in 5 minutes.
Well, what are you worried about then?
I've only had issues with smaller dogs, especially Chihuahuas. They're the ones with the biggest attitude.
Yeah,
they are. And my Irish Chihuahua, my full-blooded Irish Chihuahua, is believe it or not, she tracks deer. She'll track any animal. She could track a deer. She alerted me to a buck once. It was I was like, Chihuahuas aren't known for this, so it's kind of a weird thing. But yeah, yotes are a nuisance. Obviously, there's no yote season. Not where I live. You can kill them whenever you see them.
You could do a whole YouTube channel on Pat and the deer hunting Chihuahuas.
Get a stellar music soundtrack to go with it too. It sounds very mysterious and stuff. And you see these little like,
right. She tracks all kinds of things. It's kind of weird.
That's cool.
But yeah. So I don't know. Switching gears a little bit. How much have any of you guys been out in the bush lately? Too much snow, too cold.
Yeah. I mean, the Cascades are getting, feet upon feet of snow. That's where we usually do the investigations in the Cascade Mountains. And It's the snowstorm now.
Yeah. So the people that go out on the weekend and shoot off their long guns for fun have more limited areas, and everyone's getting pushed down into the same areas. The last time I met Brent, there were times we could hardly hear each other over the gunfire.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to be any squatches around there.
Yeah. So what are you talking about? Just recreational shooting?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the areas that we help BIN investigate. It's probably about a half a mile or so from a shooting, a shooting quarry area. So it just amplifies that sound through the whole valley. So, it doesn't matter if you're half mile away, a mile away. It sounds like it's like next door pretty much.
Yeah.
Wow.
Friday night in the summer, it's pretty busy.
Mm-hmm. That's why that's why we should go check out up in the North Cascades. You don't have to worry about any of that because it's so remote that nobody's out there on the firing range. There's no firing range out there or anything like that. So it's really cool. And nice and quiet.
It's a lot quieter on Tuesday night too.
Well, I think it would be awesome if all of us can, I'll bring Nick down from Roskills Bushcraft as well, but we should come and hang out with you guys for sure. Because you guys are all in the same area, even close with Jay. And Jay did offer us a free dinner, right? Barbecue dinner. So that's a bit of a bonus.
we could do a Bumping Lake investigation. Bumping Lake is east of Mount Rainier. And it's one of the Bigfoot hotspots in the Pacific Northwest, apparently. So I've never been there, but Jay actually wants to take me and the girlfriend down this year to go camping and stuff. And so it'd be great to get like a big little shindig going, and because that's what I kind of want to focus more on this year is getting the right people together for these shindigs, so we could really kind of find out and really explore what's going on out in the forest and stuff, and make our outings that much more productive.
Yeah, as long as it's not like the one I went down to with the hatchet in one hand and the hammer in the other hand. You guys remember what I told you about? I won't mention it, but to the people, sorry, you guys watching. That was a shindig I went down to in the United States. And
not that shindig. We won't make you squeal like a pig or anything down here.
Well, man, that sounds like fun. I feel left out because I'm 2,500 miles away, man.
Plane tickets are extremely cheap this time of year, and so if you're ever going to fly and do something, July seems to be the best time for bigfooting, according to Ben and a bunch of other people. And so if you're ever going to do it, July is the time for sure.
I thought Pat wasn't very big on the idea of trying to get them to come in closer to the camp.
Well, no, man. You guys were talking about cookout with Jay, and so we could build a fire and just talk squash, eat food, man.
And just look for the eye shine.
Yeah.
Well, do you fish, Pat?
I don't. No.
Mm-mm. Oh, really? Oh, okay.
No.
How about gold pan? You gold panning at all, or no?
No, I found a gold mine, a 180-year-old gold mine in North Georgia. Yes, it was a sluice mine.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, I made a video about it. I'll send it to you guys. It was one of the first YouTube content videos ever made. It was an interesting find. But yeah, no, I love the camaraderie. I go out in the woods because I enjoy the wilderness. I love being out in the woods, and I don't go out there, to try and invoke, encounters with them, because I don't know what I'm dealing with. So that's just my own personal thing. I'd rather be out there having fun. So if I come up there, that's why I'm there, just to camaraderie and have fun.
Yeah. But if they come in, not our fault.
If they come in, I'll shoot them.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that either, Pat.
Yeah,
okay.
You got to worry about the other 2 or 3 that's around that's watching you. I'm like, it was him.
Well, that's okay, because you guys know I have I bought a 1996 version. I have a Predator drone with caped with missiles and everything. So
with what?
missiles, Predator missiles. Yeah, Predator drone with missiles.
Heat-seeking missiles.
You should switch it to tranquilizing guns. That would be better.
Maybe.
Or a gun that would pop a receiver in, or not a receiver. What am I looking for, Steve? What's the word?
Transmitter.
Transmitter into it. Yeah, that's a good idea. Set one up with that and just pop it on there, and
the receiver thing. Yeah,
follow it for maybe a week, until it plucked it out, or if it does. But
yeah, I don't think they like anything pointed at them. Like, it seems to me like the general consensus is they don't like anything in your hands. Like, as soon as you have something in your hands, that's when they start kind of like getting mistrustful and look at you funny, maybe.
I think
that's just my opinion.
I actually think it's because, and this is totally not truthful at all, that what I'm about to say is they're the only thing that's allowed to carry a stick in the bush for tree knocking. And if they see anything else that has anything in its hands that's elongated like a rifle, say, they don't like that. These are our forests. We get to walk around with these big sticks all the time just to make knocks. Okay, being a little facetious here, I think, but
anyway, and so was I. And so was I when I said I would shoot him. I'm not trying to kill Bigfoot. I would never shoot one. It would take a lot to pull a trigger on any kind of wildlife.
There are a few of us who are going to be watching as they come up to the camp. So all you have to do is run first. Like they say, you don't have to run the fastest. You just have to run faster than the slowest.
The slowest, yeah, right.
That's true.
Well, if we come down there and you guys have night vision capacities and stuff, and we do find something at nighttime, I will walk right over there to where it is. Load me up with cameras. You guys keep an eye on things. As long as it's not a bear or
I have light night vision. I have thermal that I like.
Yeah, because that's what you got to do. You got to go check, especially if it's sounds, right? Like what Thomas and them has found out, checked out those really crazy Chehalis calls and stuff. And I've already dropped dead 5 times, almost 6 times. So I've already worked that process outside myself, and I'll probably still crap my pants on the way out there. But as long as I know you guys are watching me, I'll feel loved.
The secret is adult diapers.
Yeah, exactly. Depends. And the ones that
nobody will ever know.
So yeah. How's
just make sure you have your cell phone on you so that we can track you your GPS signal as it carries you away.
No cell phone out at Bumperding Lake.
Yeah. Just follow the girly screams and crying you're hearing out in the dark. That'll be me. Run away again.
No, GPS does not rely on cell phone signal. That's obviously satellite feed. Right. So, yeah.
Well, actually, your cell phone will still track you while you're you don't have any cell signal, but not to a great accurate degree.
Yeah, I have the rescue beacon, and when I'm out there with my wife, we're usually sending messages to my brother every now and then. When I'm out there on my own, I'm sending messages back to her every now and then.
What brand
That's the way to go.
Let's see, InReach.
What about you, Brent? You carry one as well, or?
No, but I lied to my mom and said that I did.
Oh. You're not
I don't.
You're not setting yourself up for disaster there, Brent. No.
Yeah, I'm going to piss my mom off too, man. She's going to be like, Rich, what are you doing going out there without protection?
Yeah, I get it all the time. Make sure you tell somebody where you are.
Yeah, so it'll probably be like an InReach, but I want to get that before the next season really kind of starts up, just not have to lie to my mom anymore.
Yeah.
Well, also get it a couple of weeks before you need it so you can experiment and know how it actually works.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Good insight, Steve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All you have to do is watch that movie. I can't remember what it's called. It's a true story, actually, where the guy went out into the canyons of Utah and got his arm trapped by a boulder.
He had to cut his own arm.
And he had to cut his own arm off. All you have to do is watch that movie to go, I probably should at least let somebody know where I'm at
Well,
and when I should be back. You know.
Well, check this out. There was somebody that was out hiking last year in one of these alpine trails here in Washington, and he broke his leg, and he crawled the entire night on the trail hoping to find somebody all the way into the morning time. Luckily, the weather at night was warm. It wasn't wintertime or anything like that, and the weather was sunny and stuff, so he was fine. But it goes to show you, if conditions were different, he would have hunkered down below a tree or something, probably would have died. Nobody would have ever found him, and next thing you know, he's a missing 411. But you know, it's examples like that why, you know, how important it is, especially if you're out there by yourself. You know, it's they're great tools to have.
Yeah, it's important because you, like the example you just gave, it could be something very like simple that happened to you, like a slide, just a small trip. And next thing you know, your leg's broken and man, you're incapacitated at that point, pretty much.
Yeah, I was actually watching this TV show, Naked and Afraid, the other day, and this dude just fell, just a normal fall, and he broke his knee or something like that, to the point where he had to be evacuated, and it happened that quick. That benign of a fall that didn't even look that bad, but it did.
Yep.
Why are you blocking yourself out, Pat? I timed you the other day. We were online with you the other day. You realize you were actually blacked out for 24 minutes.
Really? On a live? On air?
On live chat, yeah. You can go back and check yourself. I'm just ragging on you, you know. You're our anchor, man. You're our anchor.
Well, I figured he just wanted Patrick and me to keep talking, and he just wanted to kind of step back from the table and let it go.
Yeah, and I'm smoking. I try not to like visually smoke on air, but it's my show, so I guess.
Well, that's okay. I had one in my hand. I was about to light here, and I thought maybe I should black out, but I can't because he's blacked out. So I'll make him feel guilty, so he comes back online, so I can now black myself out to light my cigarette.
And
always thinking.
And speaking of Anchor, since you said Anchor, now we're going to go quick message from our sponsor at Anchor.fm. All right. That's all I needed for that. All right. No, yep. Oh, okay. I'll insert it later. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah. No commercial. No commercial for us.
We could have did backup for you on that one.
We'll fix that in post.
I could do a Depends commercial or something. I don't know, whatever you want.
Well, it's okay. So this show goes out to audio podcasts as well on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Anchor.fm, and several others. So I have ads for that. It's no, it is what it is. No big deal. Anyway, let's talk Squatch. So did anybody find one yet? Did I miss something? Did somebody find a Bigfoot?
Well, go on YouTube. You'll find a lot of people claiming they have.
Yeah, I understand the best tracks of 2021 are in Leon's driveway right now.
Of course they are.
Oh, it's
moneymaker.
Yeah,
I have the video done. And Steve, thank you for chatting the other day last week, because I was certainly blocked on that one. But something what we talked about and whatever you said, went in and it got me to get it done. But there's parts of it. You guys were talking about this before too. And we've chatted about this. To have the posts and what you declared, and you go up there and it's not even close to being correct. Is that a hoax?
Or bad investigation?
But there's no investigation, because when you're wrong across the whole board, other than taking the narrative from the witnesses you can blame. You're doing the investigation. Is that a hoax? Is that a deliberate hoax?
Well, there's a couple of kinds of hoaxes. People self-hoax. They get themselves emotionally and intellectually primed, and then whatever happens is Sasquatch. And then there are the people who are going out and deliberately trying to mislead for whatever reason.
Well, I think that's the visual frustration of the whole Slocan thing is his declaration he made.
Yeah.
Are we talking about Matt Moneymaker or the actual people who found it?
Yeah, we're talking about Moneymaker.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, he actually made those declarations, And I guess that's the struggle part. I mean, the other thing too is I'm making sure that everything I say is exactly as precise as I possibly can when I put the video out tomorrow. And the third video is the better one. That's when we're actually on site. But I actually made a mini video. I think it's 5 minutes long. I tacked on the end of this one so people can get a taste of what we're doing out in the bush. But yeah, it's you're sitting there thinking, first of all, do I want to even post this because I don't want any of the crazies to come after me, kind of thing? Not that I really care, because I'm basically shifting everything I'm doing. Or do I post it for the sake of education and also accountability on his side?
That's why.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's actually educational purposes. So
It is, and I think that's the most important part, Leon.
Yeah.
So we have to learn from our mistakes.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to do the video up as attacking, but it's
piece?
something that was actually what?
Oh, it's not.
Brent?
You're not doing a hit piece. Yeah, you're not doing a hit piece. Yeah. You're just trying to show that.
Well, it's unfortunately you are reviewing the facts that you found, and the facts you found are in complete conflict with what the leader of a very popular investigative organization in this topic has said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a key part too, if you actually go on your own, like, because we all go out in the bush and stuff, and we use a lot of the reports off of BFRO, pull up your BFRO pointers that you have on your own page, like on Google Pro Maps or whatever, that all your sightings and their sightings that you actually put in there because you're trusting them as a trusting source, and then pull them all off and then see the difference in the data, just the data missing off your map. And after 5 years, you've been collecting data from that source, because it's supposed to be a trusting source, putting that data on there to form a hypothesis. So now all those ones have to be vetted. Now, the bonus that we have done is or at least I should say but when I say we, I'm always talking about the group of us that go up, but it's usually me doing this kind of stuff. So, that's the most. It's a systemic problem in the Bigfoot community. You guys were talking about before I got online here. We got to learn how to vet data, and people got to stop being so bloody sensitive about when we're talking about this kind of stuff, as if it's a personalized thing. We're talking to them at home while they're watching this. This is not at all our position here. Our position is to somehow educate people, help their thinking process, show them what we're supposed to be looking for. And Steve, again, I always send you accolades in regards to, I mean, I'm a talker for sure. I speak a lot publicly for sure, but you have a much higher capacity to structurally formulate sentences that are very systematic and point form, so people can follow your thought process, which means it produces a unique thought process capability for themselves, because they've actually heard someone talk the way you talk. And that's important because that makes people have a capacity when looking at evidence to also very systematically, after you hear people the way you share your ideas and thoughts, how to think about things instead of just thinking and saying kind of thing,
Yeah.
But
and that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and you're doing it very well, I think, for sure.
Very much, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing too, talking about that too, man, have you guys noticed how many people or how many channels that are coming online that are actually quality-wise for videos and stuff? It's certainly a lot up its game. Like, I got so many different videos that I've come across now from different channels that seem to be popping up in other people. I don't even know what to post on my page, because sometimes you get one day comes by and you got 5 people that have posted all great stuff that you want to post. And then the next day it's almost the same kind of thing. And then you want to so I post Steve, I post you, Brent, I post Justin from Mountain Beast Mysteries, Thomas's stuff. And then I post my own stuff. And it's like the feed just goes down. So nobody gets a chance to see anything because the menu's too long, I guess. You want to kind of let them digest a little, and then a couple of days and then digest a little bit. And then, or even Carrie's documentary he did, which was, he did a really nice job on that one too. So I could have actually just.
Sorry, that's the thing is that, like if you get too much posting, the saturation, then things get bumped down. So you kind of have to do some math. How big's the group? How big's the page? Like how many people are watching? And then you sort of adjust your postings from there. And of course, you could always pin something at the top if you like, hey, I want to make this the most important thing.
That's why Steve's on the top of our page.
Yeah.
Because his narration for the scientific method in Sasquatch, that's exactly, I want that in my head 1,000 times every time I see that video.
That's a good video.
Yeah, because it really does.
I don't care if I'm talking about technical side of society or spiritual side of society. You want to have a little bit of critical thinking. You don't want to just buy into every crazy idea, because you're going to end up in a crazy place.
Yeah, and crazy ideas, it affects your life in general.
Yes.
It doesn't make you solid in regards to being solid, meaning that you're less fearful, you're less anxious, you're less afraid. The more solid information and thought process you have capacity for, it makes you feel more comfortable in your own skin. And I think the rampantness right across, like, again, we were talking about this quite a few times too, which is the low resolutional thinking, the programming that's happening to people's minds from YouTube and their 5-second commercials is making people not have the capacity to have long attention spans to really focus on things. So like the video, the fourth video, when we take you guys on site and show you slow down, do not go right to where the tracks are. That's the last thing you do. You do a perimeter, everything, and then you move towards them, but you control your entry in there and you control the whole thing. But a lot of people, like, again, oh, there's a structure, run over there to the structure, you know. It's like, no, you open up the whole area, and it doesn't have to be by that much, you know, 500 yards, say. But if you're pretty safe to know, like when we were up there, we kind of basically knew what we were going to be finding. But you still do it the same way either way. And that's the way to do it. You got to slow your process down, because that excitement of that, your biasness is going to just, oh, look, there it is. And then you start filming, then you start narrating, then you're priming people at home, and then they just start
and you start emotionally invested into what you're doing too. So it makes it harder for you to back down when you come to a critical analysis of what you're actually presenting. That's the worst part right there.
Well,
it is. You have to be skeptical. You have to be skeptical of yourself sometimes.
You got to. It's so difficult to try and stay grounded, because I do a lot of exploring in the woods, and it's really hard to actually stay grounded, to not get primed up by what's being told to you by all these various people that you're going out with that claim all this different stuff. And so it's really hard to actually keep that skepticism, because I can find myself getting taken along with the story, so to speak, and it hasn't been verified type of story. And, you know, so that's just one of those things, I guess, you know.
Well, the evening August 27th that I have on my channel, 3 whoops, two tree falls, and it was originally a spotted owl. My wife misidentified it. It was really a barred owl. But I've done a lot of solo camping, and unless there's a storm, unless there's wind, you really don't have trees fall over all the time. It doesn't really happen very often. And we had 2 trees fall down within about 70 yards of our camp in one night, a little more than an hour apart. Now, I don't know what caused those trees to fall down, but the fact that one was in that direction and the other one was in exactly the opposite direction, about the same distance away, feels like it has intent. And it's kind of hard to shove that back and remind myself, okay, I don't really know why those trees fell down, because I'm not seeing anything in the thermal. I'm not seeing anything move around the camp.
So, Steve, did you actually get to the location where the trees fell?
We tried going down in there once. Now, unfortunately, shortly after that is when the wildfires were breaking out and the smoke was so thick down here. Yeah. And I didn't necessarily like the idea of going out into their place with all that smoke going on. I don't know how they're going to respond to it. My wife doesn't get around so well with the heavy smoke. But the other problem is there's a lot of fallen trees out there. We did a little bit of a search path, and we found a lot of downed trees, but they were all downed a long time ago. And you could tell that by the condition of the wood.
Was that last summer? Was that last summer?
Yes.
Well, if we go down there this summer, we should be able to go down there and check them out too. That would be good because you can still be able to see.
Yeah, because maybe you can find the cell phone that fell out of my pocket.
Wow.
I gifted the big guys a cell phone.
Hi, Daniel.
Yes.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Welcome to the show, Daniel. My buddy,
thank you.
Daniel Benoit, tonight. So now he's with us. Were you able to catch any of the show, Daniel?
No, I was just focused on driving. There was too many accidents on the road to pay attention to, tractor trailers overturned everywhere on the way home. I was just coming from my girlfriend's house and kind of spending an early Valentine's Day with her since I probably won't be able to be there Sunday. So,
right. Well, if a tree falls over in the woods and you're there to hear it, is it a Sasquatch?
Hey,
did you see a Sasquatch do it?
I actually on I think 5 different occasions I had widowmakers fall really close to me, like really big branches, and I actually have one recorded and it's on my channel of you can just hear the snap and it's just this big crash type of thing. But it was on a windy day too, so.
All right, well, next to your camp or just random in the woods?
Oh yeah. It's always been within 50 yards of me. It's been like 3 of them I know were confirmed widowmakers, and the other ones were just branches that just fell.
Yeah,
probably widowmakers. It's not like it was thrown at me, but scary as shit when you're by yourself.
That is.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I can imagine. I had a scary incident once with talking about trees breaking and cracking. Well. It was an area I was actually camping in. It was an area I wasn't really familiar with. I was introduced to it by an old timer friend of mine, and he spent years in that area camping and everything. And I've learned some interesting things about that area. But the one day I decided to be brave and camp down in this area, and trust me, when I say it's remote, it's remote. There's no houses in there. I mean, you're down over in this hollow between 2 big mountains, and I tell you what, he did tell me at nighttime it gets eerie around there because you got the sound of the static of the over power lines, and in the evenings the moisture and everything comes down. It gets real foggy, and then when it gets like that, the cool air settles in. The sound of he nicknamed it Whispering Hollow. Well, anyway, there was one time I was camping there. And during the daytime, I explored during the daytime, hiked around. And of course, not knowing the area, I stayed close to camp. And there was a couple incidents, probably around 9 o'clock. I'm sitting there, got my tent, everything set up, got my sidearm next to me, spotlight. I got a few other lights. I got my camp pretty well lit up in the area, Now, while I'm sitting there relaxing, just kind of listening, taking it all in, dead silence. There has been no wind all day long. And then somewhere off to my side, not far behind my tent, just off to the side, I hear this loud crack, and it put me on edge. I was like, what the heck? And I'm thinking bears, because I know from what I learned, there is a lot of bears in the area. I didn't know if a bear was roaming through the area and decided to want to play on a tree and crack something. So my first initial thought was grab a couple loud buckets or whatever I had and start banging, making noise, because you can't see far around you because it's so foggy and it's thick around there. So after banging for a while, I kind of settled down a little bit, got back into my chair and sat back down. Maybe between 5 and 10 minutes later, I hear a much louder crack, but this time it was directly right behind me. And all of a sudden I said, all right, something's playing with me. Something's around here, and it's not going away. first thing I do, I grab my spotlight in one hand and I grab my sidearm in the other one, and I'm holding it, and my spotlight, it could only see so far because, like I said, the fog was so thick, and here it is, and the spotlight wasn't even staying on. Apparently, I didn't have it charged up enough because when you pull the trigger on it, it would light up for maybe 10 seconds and drop off. And I'm trying to yell. I'm like, hey, just making noise, I can't see nothing. And I just kind of panicked, freaked out. I don't know what it was. Could have been a big bear in the area. I wasn't going to wait around for it to sneak up on me. So, again, not knowing this area and not familiar with the area, I just grabbed my most valuables, food in my vehicle, and got out of there. It came back 2 weeks.
You aborted, huh? You just bailed.
This
Wow.
particular area, yeah, it was right on. I was way deep in the woods. I was on the West Virginia line. This is nowhere near my main area. Like I said, I'm not familiar with this area, but so I mean, because one of the stories I heard from there, the guy that introduced me to that camp spot, he's had a young couple that came by that were leaving out of their camp. They happened to spot him camping there one day and told him that why they were leaving. They had a bunch of big, large rocks thrown into their campsite and heard something screaming. They never saw nothing, but they didn't know what was throwing these big rocks into their camp. So they packed up and got out of Dodge. And that was right around the corner from where he was camping. So all these thoughts are running through my head. I said, is there an aggressive Squatch around here that doesn't want me here, or is it a bear? Because I did camp there once before with my old time buddy there. Now we did hear a big grunt. And when we heard that, I was like, what the? He said, that's a bear. That's what made me think there was a bear around when I was by myself. Because we did hear a grunt the day me and him camped together. And we banged, like I said, we banged a bunch of big jugs and buckets, and it was cool, Never heard no more after that. But I'm hearing 2 cracks behind my camp, so, well, I don't know. What am I supposed to think? I'm in uncharted territory, So yeah, I freaked out. I'm not afraid to admit to that. So, but I got out of Dodge. Like I said, when I came back 2 weeks later,
I would want some more detail from that couple. Were they rocks that were this big or rocks that were this big?
Be honest with you, I believe they were anywhere from sizes of softballs up to almost a football size. And the reason I know that, because my buddy there, he said he went to the camp. He investigated that. And keep in mind, this guy is a skeptic, but he believes there's something out there. That's the way he looks at it. And now, with that being said, he says right there where their camp was, there is a hill. It goes way up to a ridge. Well, he went around the backside where he could climb up it, and he got up above to where he was above their camp. And he looked and looked and looked, and he came across a section where there was some stones up there. And he did say he saw where you could see where stones were misplaced, where you could see where they once were. And he said he took one that looked about the size of what was missing and tried to throw it down towards their camp. He said he threw it the best he could. He said it got maybe halfway there, and rolled a little bit. And he did say, this guy, I used to work with this guy too, and he's on my Facebook. We chat every once in a while. But he says, Daniel, he said, when I was up there, up on that ridge, he said, I did hear a scream myself, but it wasn't close. And I said, oh, well, how would you describe it? His exact words, he said, it sounded like a freaking monkey. I said, what? A monkey? That's the way he described it. I swear, that's the way he described it. The guy is 65 years old, so, maybe, I don't know, so, but.
I was going to ask you. Sorry, Daniel. Are you done there?
No, you're fine.
Oh,
that's okay.
What's it?
A little bit. Sorry, a little bit of delay. Everybody remember we kind of on walkie-talkies here. Yeah, go ahead.
Over, Roger.
Yeah.
Right. Do you guys got areas that it's always, you cover quite a big area usually when you're out there looking at stuff, but do you have certain areas that every time you go into the area, you get the willies?
Yeah, there's one particular area I've been in that's like that, but it's not all the time though. There's one area this is another whole different area. Sometimes I used to walk up this narrow trail. It goes all the way into the woods, and the further you get back, the thicker the the foliage gets, and the trail gets narrower. And I've walked up that trail numerous times, but there's maybe once or twice I've ever walked up there where I felt like something was there, you know. But yeah. But again, that's not often. Well, one particular moment, walking up across through the woods from my main camp area, I was walking quite a ways, and when I got up to another ridge and walked out to this old trail, I got up there and I was just standing there, and then I wasn't there that long, and then all of a sudden I hear a tree crack, or more of a limb snap, but I could tell it was up high. So my first initial thought, oh, I'm looking up in the air because, you know, it might be a bear coming out of a tree, because I've seen that happen. I've heard what it sounds like when a bear comes out of a tree fairly close to you. But if there was a bear in the area, I never saw it. But I wasn't alert that day because I was up there by myself, and I hear the crack, and I'm looking up, looking all over. I said, all right, let's keep moving and stay on the open trail. So, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not about areas like where it always happens. It's just when it happens. It's kind of weird.
Well, there's an area that back up in the North Cascades on 2019. Every time I went there was a single wood knock, and I took some people out there just to go. Yeah, it's weird. That's all that would happen the entire time there during, you know, our either day outing or overnight outing. But when I took a group of people there, it was myself, two other guys, and a lady. And so I took them to this particular area, and we wood knocked with something back and forth in the woods. Now, granted, this is like very remote. You could tell who's coming, who's going. It was a really unusual experience, because it's like what will wood knock with you back and forth. And it was awesome, but it was one of those areas where you'd kind of go to and you'd have like that cool vibe to it. Not scary, but that cool magical vibe to it. And, you know, sometimes ever since like that following winter, there's been really nothing in that particular area as far as activity. Because there's also a video that I have on my channel of something shadowing us in the forest, and it's honestly, if I think Bigfoot's anywhere, that's where they are, in these type of areas.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because up there, Brent, I'm guessing, I mean, the vastness of those areas that you're in. So you're citing like a specific area in, you know, the woods, but I would imagine you could probably walk through the woods 1,000 miles literally to the north of that, like, and never even hit a town, you know, like, so like.
Yeah, you really wouldn't. And the thing is, it's like a lot of these areas back here, the Pacific Northwest is a jungle. So it's really hard to walk through the woods unless it's, more an older forest that has bigger trees. It's really hard to walk through the forest. You really have to stay on game trails because of all the deadfall and you know, broken widowmakers. The widowmakers up here in the Pacific Northwest are like a tree itself, and they'll easily kill you and hide you and all that fun stuff. But there's areas where we go, you know, that people don't go, you know, like back up in the hill area, you know, because we can only do so much in a certain amount of time and whatever. But there's areas where people don't step foot for decades, you know, and it's just,
I'm sure. Yeah.
It's just so vast and remote up here. It's insane.
Yeah, and the forests we can reach easily now are not the forests that the settlers came through. You look at what we can hike to easily, and you can't imagine bringing a Conestoga through that sort of forest, but that's not the kind of forest they brought those through.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's a younger forest that just has so much obstacles, and but you know, when people say that there's no place for Bigfoot to hide, it's just like it's one of those absurd observations that isn't really accurate.
Yeah, especially when they can hide, you know, literally 10 feet away from you if they wanted to, and probably not even know they're there. Yeah.
There was this one time I was like walking down this game trail, and I stopped in this big open area, and I was just surrounded by the tall ferns that we have. They were up to my waist. And I had one of those moments of clarity. It's like, what the hell am I doing? It's like they can easily just sneak up right around me on all, I just like expect all these Bigfoots to stand right up.
No, those are raptors. You've got the wrong movie.
Yeah. Well, I'll just see this little tail coming.
Oh yeah, talking about tall ferns. Yeah, here in Virginia, the East Coast, I know it's nothing compared to what you guys have on the Pacific Northwest, but there's some areas I've ventured into. I was surprised. I mean, there's areas out there. The vegetation is very healthy out here.
Mhm.
There's some areas it looks like a jungle. I mean, I've encountered ferns. I walked up. I'm talking about up to my chest, and if you take them and extend them, stand them up, they actually are taller than you. But the way they overhang when you're standing up to them, yeah, they're between your waist and almost up to your chest. And those kind of areas, I find them very fascinating because that's what Brent was saying. I kind of look at that as like, yeah, I get that same thought or feeling like, yeah, I could see them being in here. Because if they're intelligent, if they know anything about ferns, because I'm sure they know what's edible. Fern, the root of a fern is edible, even for us. It might be a little bitter, but ferns are edible. It's one of the vegetation, and that's one thing I keep in mind about ferns. So
we have something up here called Slough, which I just recently learned has multiple benefits on it. Appetite suppressant and stuff, and so it's another food source there for you. What kind of blade you got there?
This is a machete. So it's legit machete. And so up here, and even in North Georgia, we live in a tropical environment. And I'm not kidding you. During the summertime, if you're going to go off trail, you got to have one of these. You have to.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, it's so weird, the dichotomy, the difference. It's Vietnam in the summer and it's Hiroshima in the winter. Because the canopy just drops except for the thick mountain laurel and stuff like that.
Yeah, that stays year round. Yeah.
In the winter time, you can walk through the woods. You don't need this at all. In the summertime, if you go off trail, you cannot go off trail without it. You can't work your way through the woods. It's impossible.
Yeah. When we went out to try to do a search for that second tree that went down on August 27, I did have a GoPro on, and I did record that with the intent of another open notebook entry. And for the most part, I decided it's probably not worth it. It's mostly about 45 minutes to an hour of me cussing about not being able to get through the brush that was as tall as I am. But to show what the Northwest rainforest that we're looking at down there looks like, maybe I ought to actually put some of that video up, because the ferns and the stinging nettles were as tall as I am, and
devil clubs. Those are nice.
Yeah, I've just to be clear, guys, I've never been to the Pacific Northwest. I've been to Northern California. That's about as far as I've been. But I always think of the Pacific Northwest as like, evergreens that are kind of spread out, 12, 15 feet apart. But
at one time probably.
But it's not. You're saying it's not like that up there.
A lot of it was logged off 100 years ago, and it's grown back, but it's not a natural forest.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what state is it? Washington State, or is it Oregon? Which one has those big giant trees that are probably 30, 40? Oh, redwood, yeah.
Yeah, that's California, Northern California, Southern Oregon.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I kept thinking further north than that. Okay.
Well, we have them too in the cathedral forest. They're usually just form of cedar. Up here, anyways, the cedar tree. But yeah, we have.
Yeah, they do go. The redwoods go. They do go way north of California, but not in the same kind of density or they require a very special condition to grow actually and thrive.
I think it's depending upon the wood you're going after. It's like a 40 to 60 year cycle for the loggers to come in and and cleared the particular area out. Usually with that. So some of the forests that we go into, it was logged 40, 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's just now growing back. And what we're having to deal with is, I mean, it's really summer or winter going off trail it's very, very difficult. It's like, you can easily just break a leg, with having one of those false grounds there and your leg just goes in. It's not the most ideal, but that's why following game trails and stuff is the way to go. Yeah.
Actually, I dislocated my ankle, but same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
One interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, I was just going to make mention one little interesting history fact about like my general research area. And keep in mind, it's a part of the George Washington National Forest here in Virginia, and I can't speak for the whole national forest, but I know in the general area where I go into, over 100 years ago, actually, no, excuse me, I take that back. Actually, in the early 1900s, so it probably is about 100 years ago by now. So
Yeah.
but early 1900s, that there used to belong to. It used to be part of it used to be farming, and they used to do logging and farming there until the state bought it over and started turning into replanting trees. And there is an area I discovered out there. I don't know how active it is, but it's actually an old cedar fenced-in area. It's got cedar posting all around it and barbed wire around it. And they actually have a gate there. It stays locked, but it's out in the middle of the woods. And but they actually do tree growth experiments and stuff with certain trees and see how they take out there.
Oh, like grading trees? Yeah, that's cool.
What's it? Yeah, it's like a lot of them are just small. Like some of them were small. They didn't really take, but they didn't get so big. But most of the area, a majority of the area has got a lot of pine growth in there. And it depends on what part of the area you're in and that you're exploring out there. A large majority of the area has got a lot of hardwoods, oaks, maples, and you got your pine thickets, your pine and cedars, and but it's interesting because like I said, from what I learned about that being old, used to be farming in the area, because there is some old logging trails and so forth. And one of my hiking, one of my hikes out there, I went way off the beaten path, and I come across some interesting areas. I said, this looks like there might have been an old well. It's just the way it was ditched out, and there's a round spot holding water, and it leaks out and leads into one of the creeks. And I just got something told me to look around the area, and I started finding surprisingly old tractor equipment, like parts of the muffler and different parts of the. It was interesting. I said, man,
I love finding stuff like that. We find that stuff occasionally out here. It's so amazing.
Yeah. And I was like, keep in mind, when in my area, it's hard to explain. When you drive out there, you're already, before you even start going further into the woods on foot, you're already deep in the woods just from driving and getting out there. And then when you decide to venture further up a ridge and go off the beaten path, I mean, I get way out there. I haven't done it in a while, but I used to do a lot of deep hiking out there. And that's what I tell people is don't be afraid to get off the beaten path. You never know what you're going to come across.
Depending on how experienced you are in the woods.
Yeah, depending on skill level.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, you don't want to be a missing 411 candidate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've been out in those woods with another gentleman much older than I am. And, of course, I'm not going to mention his name. He likes to brag. He knows the woods, and, claims to be a tracker and everything else. This guy here, he lives local. No,
Talking about me?
20-foot tall Bigfoot?
No, this guy he lives local with me here, and the thing is, one time we used to go out doing a lot of hiking and camping together, but there's one time we went into the woods. It was already dark, and we walked in the woods. And we walked in so far, and I was surprised. I was like, "This guy's like, how do we get out of here?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "How do we get back to the camp?" And because all we had was our headlamps on, and we were in the woods. I said, "You don't know how to get out of here from here?" I mean, this guy used to brag to me that he knew this area before I ever learned about it. So I was like, it was a kind of a shocker. I was like, come on, man. You know, I mean, this guy is twice my age. And so I was like, what? I had to show him how to get out. I said, just come here. Just follow me. I said, you know, I said, look, and before we knew it, we were out on the forest road. I said, our camp's right around the corner, you know, so, but, I don't know. Some people kind of amaze me sometimes.
Well, we go out and we explore the Forest Service roads around here quite a bit. And when we do, 3 or 4 times a year, we end up doing basically what we call road rescues, which is anywhere from someone just got turned around and can't figure out how to get back the way they came to keeping people out of the evening news.
Oh,
well,
wow.
You know, like,
So, like,
during the hunting season,
actually recovering them, like getting them, saving them.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm sure you guys are probably familiar with this. A lot of people, when they go hiking in the woods, especially during the hunting season, if they're following the old trail, and I see this all the time. You'll see tree limbs broken, snapped. You know, a lot of people are known for doing that to mark their trails, even though they're hiking a trail. I do it on occasions. I know my father does it when he goes in.
I do it.
But
I do it.
You know, and that's one thing I make note of. Like, if I'm walking through the woods and I'm like, okay, the trail kind of there's some areas where the trail will actually disappear because it'll fade out, and you just you're free walking through the forest. I have a habit. I'm good at observing. That's one thing I feel like I safely brag about is I'm very observant of my terrain in the area. Like, I'll look at a down tree, like, oh, there's a tree with a rock or a stump next to it. You know, little things like that. And then, like, when I came back, if I come back down a certain way, I was like, yep, I came this way. There's that stump in that log or that rock that's laying there. You know, I pay attention to stuff like that because to me, that's important. I said, you know.
Well, the forest department does that too. They break trees certain ways to prevent growth, you know, especially along trails and stuff. There's certain procedures that they can do to also contribute to that.
Yeah.
One of the best pieces of advice I've heard from people, you know, talking about people just going out for weekend recreation. As you're walking down a trail, look over your shoulder and see where you've come from, because that's what the trail is going to look like when you're going back to your car.
When you're
looking
down,
see that, you might not be going back to your car.
Yeah. That's actually very smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
and
smart.
Do not try and skip switchbacks, because you can never actually predict when the trail will switch back. And so that I've known of fatalities from trying to skip switchbacks. It's just follow the trail. Don't try and cheat it. You know, if you're on a trail, follow it. You know, it's simple.
Well, one of the things I have a habit of doing, and I'm not afraid to do it, is just knowing is very important. If you know you sense the direction, I don't always go back the same way I came. I'll do a loop. I'll go still far in, and I'll do basically a big loop around, and I'll come back in, and I'll end up pinpointing like that's where I came. That's where I went in, and I'm coming out. Actually, you'll end up almost coming out almost in the same area, but not in the same exact area you entered. You know. Because I don't want to come back through. I have a habit of the reason I want to go. I'll go in one way and I'll circle out, go far in, and I'll keep in mind which direction. You know, like kind of like the angle of. I don't know how to explain it. But.
Well, yeah. How do you keep track of yourself, Daniel? I mean, do you use it? Do you use the compass to actually do that, or are you just kind of like naturally doing it?
It's just a natural thing. I don't know. I don't use a compass. Sometimes the other thing that helps me know in my area, because I've taken several people out there on the hikes. We'll always start off on a trail to go in, and I always take people off the beaten path. And the thing is, I know how to get back around, even if it encounters, like, there's been times I've gone in so far and I'll shoot out, like, I'll kind of make it like I'll go in and do a split left or right, like make basically a big angle, you know, or L shape, and like, and I know
it actually works really well when you're out in the field. Is I use Google Maps to actually kind of navigate where I go. It's not the one all end all. There's a lot of downside if you're like truly lost, you run out of battery, so you always need compass backup and stuff. But generally, when I'm out exploring, I use my Google Maps and I just pull it up. And if you log in there before you lose, because everywhere we go, pretty much there's no signal, so you're kind of on your own.
Yeah.
And but if you pull up the map where you're going to, it will cache it in your phone, so you'll be able to. And even though you don't have cell signal, you'll still be able to track yourself. You want to know something else really weird? I put my phone in airplane mode and it still tracked me, which is kind of weird. You figured it would cut off all ties, but even in airplane mode, your phone will still track you through the GPS.
Well, the GPS receiver still works. Yeah.
Yeah, GPS.
Yeah, the airplane mode does not. Yeah, it doesn't turn it off. But if you're ever out in the bush or out in the forest, whatever, that's one of the best things you can do in real time to figure out where you're going and find out where you want to go. And
also Google Maps allows you to cache an area of maps before you go in. So if you're going into a place that has no cell service, do that. Now, down in Gifford Pinchot, there are a lot of rescues where people call for help, and the sheriff's office just gets their GPS information off their phone and teaches them how to self-rescue, basically.
Oh, wow. Really? That's amazing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that way you don't have to send a car out for a 2-hour drive.
Right.
And then charge the person $5,000 to come and rescue them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think there was only one time I've ever used my phone, even though there was no service in the area, like what you guys were just talking about. Me and my buddy Greg, we were hiking on this trail that we went to go investigate. From this one lady shared some stories. It's a trail that her husband goes ahead and, he'll clear it out. He'll cut some trees and limbs and stuff because, his wife and her group, they go horseback riding on this trail. And, we went to go investigate it because after he found some things that weren't there when he went in, and if they found it suspicious, and she told me about it. So anyway, we decided to hike this trail. I said, this was interesting. It was new to us. And, we actually, from where we started and before we even went off trail, we were already over 4 miles in easily. And so we decided, he's like, Dan, all right, which way should we head next? I was like, let's head down this way. Because, one thing I kept in mind is where the road was. Because when we pulled off and parked, I remember exactly where the road was. Even though the road goes out and winds around, I said, we're so far in, I keep trekking. In my mind, I have a mental note of where I'm at and the direction I need to head into. So after we went off the beaten path and we hiked down a little ways, and we're coming across a creek that's kind of flowing, going downhill. I said, we're going to follow this creek down. And when we got so far, we sat down. We had to take a break. We sat and took a break, and I just so happened to pull my phone out. And sure enough, I was like, oh, look, it's showing where we're at. So I was able to expand it and looked out. I said, all right, we got to keep heading in this direction. Well, apparently we're headed in the right direction. We keep going this way, we're going to come back out to the forest road. And sure enough, it brought us back out to the forest road. And luckily, 2 guys in a truck came along because we had another 4 miles up the road to get back.
Wow.
Yeah, because after we already were in a good 4 miles, and then we went off the path and came all the way down. So yeah, those 2 guys let us jump in the back of their truck, and brought us back up to our vehicle, and I'm glad they did because that was a good ride back up there. So, but yeah,
I think it's important too before you go on any area that you're in. Is I use Google Pro, but Google Pro Earth is you go to the area and you look at the area. Obviously from the Eagles perspective, but you look for landmarks that are large landmarks. So the good thing is we have a lot of mountain ranges here, so you can count the mountain ranges that you're actually going to be negotiating before you get out there. And also, there's a lake this way. So if I keep going that way, I'm going to hit that lake. And so that at least you got a bearing compass, because like you said, sometimes your electronics screw around with you or something like that, and then you're still stuck. So you have to get that image in your head before you actually get on site. The other thing too is use it as an opportunity to learn how to read maps, hand maps. And I mean, Nick from Roskills Bushcraft, that's why I like him on the team here, because he's just way like way better in that than I am for sure. I remember one time I was working in an area and I'd been into the area about 5 times. So I knew the area really well. So I thought I'd check out this other area. So I thought, and I kept trekking through the bush and walking through the bush. And I got up to this top of this mountain. I thought, man, this is interesting, because there was something familiar about stuff I was looking at. And I kept looking around, and everything looked really familiar to me. And I thought, there's no way this could be. I'm miles away from where I thought I was. And after being there, and it was like my brain was so confused, because I found some coyote shit on this other area I was in before. And I got up to this area and I thought, look, this looks like the same coyote shit that was at the other site. You know? And so, and then I kept walking in deeper into this area, and I kept running into stuff that looked so like this other area. And then, of course, it dawned on me after my brain stopped being present where I was in regards to thinking it was a new site, and let that other image come on overlap on top of it. And I realized, this is the same area I was just in about an hour and a half ago. Like, I totally got turned around. So, and that's a weird thing too, is, you know, your overconfidence that you think sometimes when you're in the bushes, you just better be cautious. You need that, like 5 good different styles of resources: compass, GPS.
Where was the sun, Leon?
Yeah, there's a good one, eh? I didn't even think about that, Steve. That's how shallow-minded you can be sometimes. So it's like, oh, I'm in the bush all the time. I've been in the bush, a lot, but I can still be an idiot by one stupid thinking process. You know, follow one different trail that looked like the one I was supposed to follow, and you can get turned around so bloody easy, and especially the thicker stuff too. I mean, you just don't know nothing. Well, especially in the Pacific, right? Because you can't see really where the sun is when you're in deep bush, unless you hit a clearing area.
Well, like up in the North Cascades, they call it the American Alps. So there's you know, the sun will go behind the mountains and you won't even see it, and it's like 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know, and it could be difficult. Yeah.
Well, then you have to look for signs, of course, right?
Mhm.
Is the moss on the north side of the tree?
Well, sometimes the people who get lost, who get really lost, I mean, professional level lost, they'll go into an area and they'll cross a ridge. And now, okay, which valley am I in? How many ridges did I cross? Or they get lost within a valley and then they climb up high to find their way out. And then they end up crossing a ridge and ending up in another valley. And well, now they're nowhere near where they actually got lost from, and they're nowhere near where any searchers are going to look. One guy a couple of years ago was found 3 ridges away from where he got lost.
There's actually a couple of Bigfooters, not really Bigfooters, but they're out looking for Bigfoot that got lost while out in the woods and stuff. And it's the most hilarious story, actually. It goes to show you just got to be safe out there. You know, tell people where you're going, and you can go. It can turn bad just like snap of a finger. You know, a quick fall, quick trip. You know, and you know, so it's. I think a lot of the people who go missing, it could be preventable. You know, and you know, they go outside their skill level and stuff, and.
Yeah, and even professionals have done that too, right? Because they get overconfident. I mean, I've done some pretty stupid things that, I was working when I was in forestry, and I had a crew of, it was 30 guys. We had to walk back to base camp because the choppers couldn't get in. And I thought for sure it was a certain direction. And so everybody started heading that direction and that. And all of a sudden you hear this, and it's Cam, my bear guy. And he goes, "Everybody stop." He's like an ex-Marine guy, right? "Everybody stop and don't move." And then he proceeds, flowery metaphor, flowery metaphor, flowery metaphor, followed by, "You are idiots." He says, "You're going the wrong way." And I had sent them that direction, which was not a good thing, because I was yeah. And then I immediately bowed the knee to him, because I thought, no, he knows his shit. I've known Cam for like from 30 years. And he's the guy you want if you're in trouble. It's again like Nick. I mean, if I'm ever in trouble in the bush and Nick's with me, I know I'm going to be okay, because I mean, he's just got so many resources in the bush and skills and stuff. But that's the crazy thing is, and I think that's kind of what the problem is. I was going to ask you guys this question earlier. I was thinking about a way of formulating it is, what would you like to kind of see the Bigfoot community do differently that they haven't seen to be doing, or they should be upping the game on? And one of it is kind of what we're talking about here for me, which is, it's really, I mean, there's so much interesting stuff to learn. Like, some of us have probably a bit more used to being in the bush, but there's so many things to learn to even better ourselves. Like you said, tracking, mapping, using a compass with a map, using raw skills in the bush to survive for a weekend kind of thing. Like, go in there with just enough food or something, and then try to build your own shed, or your own shelter, and kind of learn to live in that kind of style of insides that you would develop by doing those activities and stuff. So that's kind of what I'm really hoping is going to be happening this next year, because there is something happening online which is really shifting. The old guard that's been online for years that we all followed and we got sucked into and stuff, that's challenged too much now. It's starting to get really challenged. Like, show us why you're saying that is a Sasquatch.
Yeah, I notice people are pushing back on it more. It's like instead of, so there's those YouTube channels that just declare the evidence and without other sort of resources, and
most of that script that they're saying to you to declare the evidence is stuff that they heard online with none of it being vetted. Mm-hmm. I had somebody say to me while on that video I'm working on right now, part of the video at the very beginning, I have BFRO's policy in regards to vetting information from witnesses. And so I scroll it and let it, so the viewer at home can read it. And then I highlighted specific things, like intense, or what's one of them, kind of like scientific method, or they'll say things like with great scrutiny. I don't think those are quite the exact words, but that's the imprint you get when you go through that reading of how they get the evidence. And then they have different ways of doing it depending on what type of evidence it is. And so they'll send in this style of people that are supposed to be professionals about it. But if they're ones that are kind of so-so, they'll do phone-in interviews, right? So with that particular part, at the very end, I wrote below, for understanding the vulnerability of witnesses, below I put a 100-page white paper link. So check out that link. And what it is how do you invest, or how to, when you're talking to witnesses, how to interview them. And that's important. Like, I got that from you, Steve. You were saying, I point two things out, and then I ask the viewer to go and check it out so that they learn for themselves. That's the way, that's a good teacher. That's what a teacher should do. And then another one I posted, or a link that I posted with that, was one on, what was the other point that was there that was frustrating for me when I was going through that report? There was how to identify witnesses, and sorry, I got a brain fart there. I can't draw it out of my head. But that's the thing that I find frustrating. If anything, that SLOCAN report, what it proves to me, and it puts it into 5 years of me doing research about what the systemic problem in the Bigfoot community is, and people aren't going to like what this is, but the bottom line is up your game. Find out what it is you're looking at. Learn to narrate it to the viewers so that we have, instead of 100 of us doing it, 5,000 of us doing the right standard by upping your game, and explain to us how you know it's a Sasquatch. Throw everything out if we have to, including me. But you have to be able to do that, because we are going to be in the same place in 50 years if this doesn't change, and
record everything. Pay attention to everything, including even just how you feel and what you're thinking at the moment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I think the thing too is, I don't know if people really understand, like when I say white papers, like I sent out a white paper to a few different people, and a couple of responses I got back was, well, it seems either fairly biased, or it seems that it's got an agenda, and it's like, that's not what a white paper is. A white paper if at all you had a white paper that you're going to send it to a scientific journal so that it can be vetted by other scientific people, they're going to sniff it out in microseconds. It's kind of like us, if something looks hokey,
right?
Like, for instance, a dead baby Sasquatch,
right?
Immediately, right?
Yes, immediately, red flag.
Yep. And so, if you're scientists, as soon as a paper that comes in, it's published for journaling, and it has a bias to it, that's going to be immediately sniffed out. And also, if it has an agenda, because it means it's not objective. So, in the biasness, You can't have those two things in a true white paper. Am I incorrect about that at all,
No.
Steve? Or am I on target with that?
Well, that's
Steve?
pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same idea. Like everyone rags on the scientific community that they want to listen to us, and that it's because they have a total different standard.
Yes, they do.
It sucks when they're wrong as well. The same way it sucks when we're wrong. But that's what the problem is.
Except, like Carl Sagan said, science is pretty brutal with new ideas.
Right?
It is.
And literally says those that survive become welcomed tentatively into the community.
Right. Well, that's a good model for us too, because it's the same thing that we do. The problem is we don't have we have a bit of an ignorance to us. I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean lack of knowledge almost. Of knowing that in any kind of thing, you have to hash the shit through. Like if you guys came up with stuff, or I came up with stuff, and I said, "Look, this is what I found," and say we were online, and I showed you some of the stuff. I want to know your sincere thoughts on it and stuff, but I want to make sure that you guys are also doing the same process. And I know, from what I've met of you guys, you guys are all kind of that way. And I mean, that is totally refreshing, and that's totally what's been missing, and that's why it's been so bloody frustrating online. Is I don't know. There's nothing wrong with educating yourself on a variety of fronts. I mean, you could teach me so much, and I mean, as a teacher, an educator, my students teach me a hell of a lot more than I could ever teach them. I just give them the groundwork, and then they go run with it, and then they come back with, "Hey, we found this." I thought, "Holy shit! I never saw that. Great job!" Like awesome.
Well, the other thing we need to do is collaborate effectively.
Yes.
There's been a lot of the old British explorer heroes thing in the Bigfoot community, and that has to stop. You're not going to own Bigfoot, but I have my experience. Leon has his experience, but if we collaborate, we have both our experiences that we can work with, and then add Brent and Daniel and Pat and a number of others, we get a bunch of expertise together. And if we can share open notebooks and share what's going on and learn how to observe things so that we can explain it to each other, we can come up with ways to help improve what we're seeing.
Yeah,
agreed.
That's the key part right there. Yeah.
And I'll say this about all of that is that there's a supreme irony happening here, is that people in the Bigfoot world say science won't accept us, and science is nothing more than understanding the world around you. That's what science is. And so you don't have to wear a lab coat or hold a test tube in your hand, and so kind of where I'm going with this is that science thrives and it is only moved forward through new ideas, right? So a new idea, that's how science works. But in academia, that's not the case. So you have to, people in the Bigfoot world need to understand that when they talk about science and scientists, they're actually talking about academics. And those people get stuck in their ways until other people come along, like the Carl Sagans of the world, or what have you, and shake things up and change the thinking and prove, and then eventually prove the thinking. And yeah, that's a whole different area. That's how we know about the Big Bang. That's how we know about how the fabric of the universe works, and now we kind of understand how big the universe might be, things like that. But we still don't know what dark matter is or dark energy. So we're always learning, and it's so people just in the Bigfoot world want to say science, and it's like everything we do in life is science. You're a scientist every day,
and the academics have some of the same problems. Once you write a book on something and you've got a book out there in the market and you're hoping to get some revenue from that book, well, that book's got to be right, because if that book's wrong, no one's going to buy it. So once I've written a book, then I can't change my opinion or that revenue stream is going to go away.
So wait, people bought some of my books. Does that make me right? Yes. No, just
You're a scientist.
now my
Well,
books
yeah,
are based
because-
off of my.
Go-
They're based
sorry,
off
go
of my. No, that's all right. My books, it's just they are based off of my research and my view of things. I'm not.
Yeah.
One thing I can tell you in my books, I'm not trying to say this is that is this, or I don't come out and making any claims. I do present things in a questionable manner, and also my main thing is, and the whole thing is objectivity. We got to be objective. My thing is questioning everything, and don't be afraid to object to something until there is data.
I would wager, Daniel, that if you learned something new that either augmented or even somewhat contradicted something you've written, that was an opinion that you've written in an earlier book, that you would write a new book saying, I've learned this. This is why that made sense back then, but this makes more sense now.
Right.
And that's how progress happens. Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
But in the Bigfoot world, you don't get that because it's there's too much ego behind it, too much emotion behind it. So it's,
But Brent, with what you're doing and stuff like that, and I don't know if you guys caught Justin last 3 video, or not last video that he just posted last night, but the other 2 there, he's really talking about, there's something seriously wrong in the Bigfoot community. All of us guys know that, sorry, I wouldn't say just guys, but people know it. We know there's something really, really wrong because we're missing something. Because there's no reason at all we shouldn't have more. We should be farther down the path than what we are right now. But I think the nice thing is I think with the younger generation is, and I know, Brent, you just got so much freaking flack for the Sasquatch under the roots and living under the ground, right? But that was brilliant. And you stuck to your guns and you stood on that fact because you felt that was when you were pretty new in the whole scene, and you had to step out and say that. Where you were with that is the same way I'm at with this video I've been wanting to post and just finish posting that. And part of that delay that I talked to Steve about was I don't even know if I want to put it out because is it worth my time in regards to the response of getting people yakking at me. It's kind of like if Matt comes back and he says, well, that's blah, blah, blah. Matt, have you been up here yet?
Well, you'll get a variety of responses from different people, depending upon how.
No matter what you do.
Like mine was so. A lot of people knew about it, and it was there's a lot of emotion behind it. So there's a lot of shenanigans going on behind scene. But with what you're doing, you're more showing how we should fact check what some of these researchers are saying to us, because it's a good learning lesson for Matt, Matt Moneymaker, that he should do a better job at being an investigator because we're watching now. And, I'm the same thing with David Paulides, the same thing. We're watching now. We're a lot smarter now that we're not going to just go along with whatever you're trying to present. We're now going to give ourselves the tools to fact check this, and we're going to spread those tools around for other people to learn as well. So we don't have to deal with these type of people, just out there trying to exploit it for their own personal gain.
He could choose to be a more responsible steward of the information he possesses.
Exactly. And that's what I'm trying to do with what I want to do with David Paulides. I did a video before that was kind of more emotionally based, it did come off more of a hit piece in some ways. And I didn't want to come out that way. I wanted to come out as a learning lesson that, if he's not aware of what he's doing, this is what he needs to be doing better at, because he's really failing at it. I don't expect David to ever see it or anything like that, but it's a learning lesson for us as an example of
I want to see it.
What's that?
I said I want to see it. Send me that video, Brent. Yeah.
Well, no, it's just because he did 4 cases up here in the North Cascades, 3 of them that I worked on, and he totally misrepresented what was going on. He to the point where it's like, Jesus, did you even research this? It was so bad. It was really, it was the facts, the important facts were not included with. Yeah, they were left out. Instead, he tried to create the narrative of bringing it to his clusters, and it's like, geez, you're using these people's story, and to go make money off to help promote your little cluster theory, which is just BS. And it's like, it's so disrespectful what he's doing by not presenting all this information. I know he's just stealing the format of the How to Hunt dude, because he just goes up there, just reads these stories, and you know, you can make a decent amount of money off YouTube just by reading other people's stories. And so that's what this David Paulides has been doing lately, and I think he's been getting very lazy about it, to the point we should all fact check what he's presenting now, because I could tell you right now, and I'm going to break it down into a way where it's like he totally screwed up on what he presented. It's just another good example of why we need to start questioning everything.
Yeah, well, show how to do the fact checking that you're doing to help other people to get there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah. Dude, Brent, you just opened up a whole different can of worms there. And I would love to do a part 2 about the missing 411. Like, I would love to make that the focus of a show one night.
You want to know something else that he just did that really irritated me even more? Is there's this big channel called Mr. Ballin. It's a story channel, and he uses some 411 stories sometimes. And it's a great channel. Go check it out. So he uses these 411 stories, but David Paulides started putting copyright strikes on his videos that he was releasing with the missing 411, and trying to shut his channel down because David Paulides thinks he owns these stories of these missing people. And so he's trying to shut down this bigger channel because he's making more money than he is, you know, because it's all about subscribers with the whole YouTube game sometimes. And so it just seems like he's taking down this
depending on what you're using it for, you know, fair use.
It was completely
a story. It's a
YouTube.
It was.
And if you want to say that anything that David is talking about with missing people is not news or is not potentially educational, then you've got a real misunderstanding of what.
Well, it's public record. It's public record.
Well, he had to bow down to David Paulides and his copyright strikes to get it removed. He had to acknowledge David. And it's not that he never did before. He always promoted. These are David Paulides, you know, missing 411, go check it out. And he was like promoting them. And David just came in like, oh, no, I want some more of your subscriptions. Make sure you point people towards me. I expect them to do a Zoom chat of sorts. So the subscribers, so David could, you know, tap his subscriber base. Guaranteed.
All right. Flex my way.
I'm just going to say this. I'm just going to say this. Brent, like, I don't know Brent all that well, but I trust him enough that what he just said, I'm just going to say this, man. Fuck Paulides.
Oh, yeah.
Like, fuck you, dude.
With what Brent was sharing, what brought to my mind was what we were discussing last time we were on here together. One of the things that we were talking about is you know, the question was involving with what David Paulides is doing with the 411 cases, videos or books, and everything. Is he using this to fit his agenda? Like, hey, and you know, as far as he wants his YouTube, because people that don't understand YouTube, you know, because you know, the more people get, the more subscribers you get, and the more money you get, because you get the views, your monetization. Yeah, because there's people, even with a person that has 5,000 subscribers. I know somebody who had 5,000 subscribers. If you get enough views on your videos, you could average easily $3,000 to $5,000 extra a year. You know.
Well, and he's using the How to Hunt dude, his formula, because when the How to Hunt dude, when he came into the Bigfoot story, doing the same type of exploitations of sorts, you know, when he came in, he got a big boost in his subscriber base to the point where all he has to do is read these unverified stories that he supposedly gets in the email. He's probably making this shit up off camera. I mean, for all we know. But, you know, he's using that same type of.
Oh, he doesn't have to. Other people will make it up for him.
Or that.
Exactly. Yeah, you know, but people like the story time channels, you know, which are cool stuff. Yeah, but it's a story time. And, you know, but that's, I think, is what David Paulides is doing, is he is copying off his buddy, the How to Hunt dude, because they did a conference together and they're all in that whole circle jerk type of thing. But Yeah, he's totally exploiting it in that in that way.
Sorry, ladies.
Right.
Oh my God, dude. No, hey, Brent, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. That cracked me up.
Totally true.
And
No, that's the frustrating part about it is that, like, I mean, that's exactly what I'm talking about with Matt. Like, you can't. I mean, you can, and if you're doing it for entertainment, then I don't care about that. But when you're representing an organization that all of us online, that
you're right,
and it's a very
with Matt, it's different. It's different.
Yeah, but it's a very delicate thing on trying to present the evidence of not having it come off as a hit piece, because you want Matt to get this and be like, wow, that's enlightening. I didn't really realize that, and yeah, I'm kind of getting called out. And other people are going to be like, yeah, you're going to catch more flies with honey than with whatever else,
Yeah, and you're right 100%, Brent. I mean, the good thing is me watching you, because you and I got online exactly the same time through the same source, right? And so watching both of us going through at the same timeline has been interesting, because it's been in sync, even though you're in Washington and I'm in British Columbia. But it's been in sync with you having to wrestle and I having to wrestle with, wait a second, there's something wrong here.
Mm-hmm. I say this.
I was very happy to have that Bigfoot 3 hoax. That was the best. It sucked at the time, but in hindsight, that gave me the most growth and the most insight on the Bigfoot phenomenon, how to investigate it, how people will fall for the priming confirmation bias, how they use the cognitive dissonance to keep their belief in line and stuff. It gave me so much insight that it was priceless.
Well, and it did, because it hooked you, me, and Steve together, because we all talk that way. We talk about that dynamic, because we weren't hearing much of that online. We were hearing like bias and stuff.
I know, right? You probably weren't.
I took a big hit for that. Like, I almost left the Bigfoot community because of it, because of the drama that was associated with it, not just online, but like the behind the scenes shenanigans, which I still hear about every once in a while. I was like considered one of the worst people in Washington because of how they were trying to protect this hoax. And it's like a whole, it's.
Okay.
And I was very nice and polite about it too.
I mean, we've just opened up a huge can of worms that is like, this should be the start of a freaking show. Like, it's killing me. I'm like, oh my God. Okay, we got a lot to talk about here.
Well, now
there's at least 3 worm cans there.
What's that, Steve?
There's at least 3 worm cans there.
Yeah, and
they're all open.
And so, so I'm gonna kind of wrap it up, but I'll say this. Yeah.
What are you talking about? What are you doing? Anyways, what are you doing tonight? It's Friday. I know it's Valentine's Day here. I don't know if it is in the States, but is it Valentine's Day in the States?
Sunday it will be. On the 14th. Yeah.
So
what are you doing Friday night, Pat? Come on.
Well, I mean, I got things to do.
Like dishes, laundry.
Yeah, laundry. But I'll say this, like, Brent, like, do not be afraid to do that hit piece.
No, it's not going to be a hit piece. It's going to be an educational piece for us to all learn from. And David would be like, wow, I didn't realize I suck.
Okay. It's just because you've said that word now a few times. And so I'm thinking that maybe you're thinking maybe you did a hit piece or could do a hit piece.
I did. It came off as one. I deleted the video because
as long as you're fair. Hey, as long as you're fair, dude, it is not a hit piece.
Oh, no, it was very fair and very informative and educational, but I think I could do better at communicating the facts and showing how he is wrong. And you do it better visually to communicate it, because I don't want people to think, oh my God, this guy's just angry and stuff, because I did get kind of, emotional when I didn't realize it while I was doing it, but watching the video again, I was getting kind of emotional behind it. Like, I was getting kind of mad to the point where it was like, geez, I got to end this video.
Just like me saying, fuck Pilates.
Well, I wouldn't do that myself, but I did
Yeah.
take, like, you can tell a couple of times in the tone of my voice in the video I'm working on, finished off there, which is
Yeah.
like, I'm pissed here. This is your logic, Matt? You know, because he accused me of, this is your logic, Leon? Question mark, question mark. So I go through all this stuff, all the emails, and go, this is your logic, Matt? Like,
You know, well,
this is not
I
logic.
mean,
This is just,
This
I'm
is
making
one of those-
no matter what you do in this world, and I tell people this all the time. I'm like, you could write the greatest song in the history of love songs, right? Just like this beautiful song. It's a love song. It's beautiful. It's about your girl. She died in a car crash. You know, it's like emotional. Somebody will come in and go, this song sucks. You know, even though like millions of people will love it, right?
Yeah.
You know,
It's the one thumbs down on your channel always. There's always
I
always have one guy that goes thumbs down, it seems. It's like, what's this guy stalking me for 5 years?
Yeah.
You're gonna write thumbs
so
down.
you cannot concentrate on the haters because they'll always be there. And we know what we're doing. We know that we're being like critical thinking, objective people. Well, except for Daniel, I don't know. He's just kind of Daniel goes out in the woods and walks around. I don't know. But we're sorry, but you know.
Yeah, I don't take pictures of blurry Bigfoots. And
Yeah,
post
that's
them on
true. He doesn't. I have his back on that.
Well, you might take the pictures, but you don't publish them.
Right.
Yeah.
So whatever
Bigfoot
you
takes
do in
pictures of
this
me.
world, whatever you do in this world, when you have a voice in the world, which we're all finding our voices in this world to different degrees, you know, you're gonna have haters, you're gonna have criticizers. But I just say this, Brent, like stick to your guns, dude. Like if you can articulate, hey, this is why this is wrong. Like, do it. I mean, I'll gobble it up. I'll be like, you know.
That's what I want to do is like a bullet point almost of like, this is what he's presenting. This is the actual facts, and you know, just allow people to make their own decision of, you know, they're just being presented the facts. Why did he leave all this information out? I don't know. Is it to promote the cluster? I don't know. That type of thing. But
I know.
I think it's important how we deliver what we're trying to promote, and I think the way we communicate it is going to be more important sometimes than the message itself, because we have to make sure that the people who are listening really understand that what we're saying is not, you know, some emotional, stupid type of stuff, you know.
Yeah, objective. It has to come across objective.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But some people still react to it, but it's objective. Somebody asked in a question, Brent, where your channel is. Do you want to tell them what your channel is?
Oh, it's the tall ones.
Yes, on YouTube.
On your platform.
The tall ones, tall ones on YouTube.
Oh, you're the tall ones, yeah. Because you watch. I think you interact on my YouTube channel sometimes. Yeah.
I might. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm bad though.
Yeah, I know. No, I know. I was like, oh, he's the one that's always saying something bad on my. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Nah, I'm Bigfoot Zone, ECBRO, or YouTube channels. Yeah.
Daniel, you're like actually one of the first people that I started. I kind of found on the whole Bigfooting thing, you know, and so you're actually one of the first Bigfooters that I recognize of. In the whole Bigfooting world when I first got into it, just because I ran across your videos.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I've been watching you off and on literally ever since.
That's really sad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. There are people who just won't participate in this critical thinking thing. And okay.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. You know, because there are people who want to who have YouTube channels for Bigfoot. They're not actually researching it or interested. They just want the attention that they get from it. You know, and which we have to recognize that that's not part of what our circle of things, you know, of people, and not to just get discouraged by those people always existing and always going to have a crowd, because they always will. It's just we just need to recognize that and focus more on what we're doing and how we're going to communicate that and promote that to the people who want to learn, like the people like us. Like when I came into this, I was so naive that I believed so much stupid stuff that I wasted so much time and so much embarrassing stuff that I would tell my family, oh my God, look at this. People are saying this is Bigfoot. And later going back, that's not even Bigfoot. That's why I don't talk about Bigfoot on my personal Facebook page anymore, just because it's been so disappointing by the people that presented the evidence that they've been full of shit that it's like, I don't even bother with it anymore.
Yeah.
But it's changing. It's changing.
Yeah, Strange Land. You should do up your own channel for sure. And yes, that video is coming out in the next 2 days that you were wondering about the other day. I want to talk a little about what Steve from How to Hunt, and I'll tell you the big disappointment I had with Steve was I thought A, he was in BC, right on. B, he's a bush guy, right on. I'm in BC, I'm a bush guy, right on. I thought this guy was going to come in the same angle I was coming in. The biggest frustration I had where I used to promote Steve all the time at the beginning was once I started noticing he's not vetting anything. So it's, I can't, matter of fact, I've heard him say a couple of stories online that I already know because I got sent the same information and I know who sent him those information. I thought, this is not true. None of this is true. And I thought, so I can come online and just tell all these stories about Sasquatch, but I need to, because again, it's like you were saying earlier, Brent, there's this shift, Brent, that there's this shift that's happening online, which is there's getting more of us, probably about 30% now that are online are actually really seriously trying to figure out what the hell's going on out there. And that's why you also see about 30% of the YouTube channels, which is on almost an overkill, have upped their game because their quality is up their game as well. And so that's all encouraging stuff for me and stuff. So I can't follow Steve because it's irrelevant what he's producing. I get where he's coming from and the angle he's coming from. But
yeah,
what pulled me off of his channel completely was when he started throwing pictures out there that had obviously not been vetted.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Like he was just going to see how much he could get away with.
Ivan Marcus, he put Martin or whatever. He posted all those pictures as if they were real
Ivan
pictures.
Well, no,
crazy
bullshit. I call bullshit. Steve is gullible. He fell for that crap. Like
no, you can't say that.
He's gullible.
You can't say that he's gullible. That's
I think
not what's going on there, in my opinion.
I think he's intentionally knowing what he knows what he's doing. He knows he's playing the YouTube system, and he knows what he's doing.
I think he was testing how much his audience would tolerate.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, what's y'all's take on the whole situation when he basically endorsed the drama behind, with MK David? Yeah,
no, it's marketing because YouTube Bigfooters are like a brand, like in business, and it's marketing, and that's what he did. He wanted the attention from it. Doesn't matter if it was good or bad, because he'll always have people follow him because of his attitude. So that's why he did it, was just to create the ruffle all these feathers up in the Bigfoot community, so everybody will start looking at him, get the attention.
I disagree. I disagree with you guys wholeheartedly here, and so that's why this is going to be a freaking another show, because I see a complete different angle that I want you guys to hear, but I can't get into it now because we're 2 hours into the podcast.
No. Let's go like 15 more minutes. 15 more minutes. Just tell us your thoughts so we can process it. So when you do the show, we'll be ready for you.
Well, I'd rather lead with it.
Well,
I'd rather
Pat,
lead with it to end with it.
Well, you got to keep in mind the night's still early for these other guys. They're behind us. We're like,
oh yeah, that's right. It's like
it's early for them. We're on Eastern time, so
yeah. That's totally true. The sunset for them, about an hour and a half ago, roughly.
I still have to go drive after this too.
I mean, hey, I'm more than willing to go another 15 minutes. It's just when we start talking about Steve and what that's the road that's going down, like that, I swear to God, that's a much better thing to open with and to close with. Because we spent like 45 minutes talking about survival in the woods. So, You know,
Well,
it's like it's a big gear shift that's gonna happen. That's fine.
Strangeland is from Newfoundland, which is the farthest east you could possibly be from where I'm located right now. And it's only 12:14, and he still wants to keep going.
well, I could say I know just from sitting and listening to this conversation and these discussions that we're having tonight, I could see this like what Pat was saying. Yeah, I mean, this is going to open up and branch out into several different directions, which is good because there's a lot I think we could get into from what we just started here within the last half hour here. So,
agreed.
Yeah,
but give us something that has meat and potatoes in regards to your concepts. You don't have to go into deep, and we can still stop in 15 minutes. But give us something there.
Well, I can't because I'll just get on my stump and I'll say what I think
Was it
about that
a
whole
positive stump of him, or a negative stump, or a neutral stump?
It's sort of neutral. Like I've had my like goods and bads with Steve, for sure. Like he's a freaking asshole. He came into the Bigfoot world as a complete asshole, you know. But there was a crowd for that. There was an audience for it.
You still find them. Yeah, I got kicked out of a group because I didn't support Steve.
Yeah, or if you criticize, like I criticized him once on Facebook, and got some generic response, and I'm like, well, that wasn't that like.
Well, now he's got his whole crowd of
Mm-hmm. But I mean, he's found his rhythm. So he built I'll say this fairly about Steve. He's definitely an outdoorsy guy, and he found his rhythm on YouTube, and he found what worked and what didn't, and he's kind of kicked out the shit that doesn't work, and stuck with the things that do work. Which, of course, like you were saying earlier, Brent, encounters. Let's do encounters. I'm going to read encounters on air with a beautiful, Canadian high mountain backdrop. Brilliant.
Somebody
Freaking
get that
brilliant,
tablet, so he's not like reading it on like a small phone. Should you read it off that tablet or something?
The other thing too is, I mean, he was on his pedestal there, or whatever, not his pedestal, but his soapbox, talking about Bigfooters are just out for making money, all that kind of stuff. He's doing exactly the same thing. It's like, and I don't have a problem with people making money on their channel, but it's like the reverse kind of thing I deal with, like, again, crazy people a lot. And the funny thing about crazy people, especially if they're toxic or narcissists or sociopathic, they have a tendency of, so then the sane person will look at the crazy person and they'll say to their friends, now watch out for that guy because that guy's crazy, or this guy's like that, and this guy will do this and this guy will do that. And what does the crazy person do? They take exactly the same wording and statements and point it back at us, the sane ones, or the logical ones, or the rational ones, and use those same defenses back to protect themselves. We're the bad ones.
Well, I call it the magician's trick.
Yes.
Look at them over there. They're doing what I'm doing, but they're wrong. Don't notice what I'm doing.
Yeah, totally. Misdirection. Totally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Oh, okay. Yeah, we see that. Oh. Amazing.
Whoa!
Blows my mind.
Now that's magic.
It's easy. I don't know, where are we at? We're talking about Steve still. Like, fuck Steve.
Yeah.
No. I mean, that's good. I didn't want to go too far. I just said just a little idea of your perspective.
I've had my battles with Steve. At one point, I was like, I wanted to, bring him on my platform and talk to him one-on-one, me versus him, which sort of a debate, almost like very challenging debate. Obviously I can't do that. I can't get a hold of Steve. Like, he has 1,000 emails coming in a day. So
yeah, he won't do something like that where he can expose himself to where he can't control it. The whole narrative.
I agree.
The whole conversation. He doesn't do stuff like that. I saw him at a conference or saw videos of him at a conference with David Paulides and Scott Carpenter.
Yeah, shocker.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing that is different from what you guys are thinking. I'm actually in a totally different place, and I think you would be interested in my opinions on this, but I'm way over here, and you guys are talking about those people right here, and I'm like, nope, there's something way different going on, and
well, that's the part I'm interested in. That's why I asked you the question.
When do you want to do the show next?
I think Steve and I are both used to being way and dealing with people way over here, so we're ready for it. We're just wondering if it's that way
which
over
is cool.
Here.
Yeah, it's cool because
there or there.
Hey, it's cool because I'm sort of in my circle of trust, with my super panel tonight. Who we talk about Bigfoot, and we're like, yeah, we're objective and blah blah blah, critical thinkers. But then we can
no blah 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 in that. We are objective scientific thinkers. No blah blah blah. That's the problem. There's no blah 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 in the scientific method. It's not blah blah blah. It's this. You can look at it. Oh yeah, I see that.
I agree. I'm sorry. It was inappropriate for me to blah 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 that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I had a Seinfeld moment, but that I can come to this point where we are talking about Bigfoot critically thinking, and then all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, like I see an angle on something that my fellow like-minded thinking brothers don't.
No,
they don't
that's
see
not
this
true
angle.
either. I can guarantee Steve and I probably see your perspective along with 5 or 6 different other perspectives way over here. That's why we're curious to hear what yours is.
Yes, and I would love to do that, but I've got to say that this is gold now for a new show.
Great show.
Let's schedule that for another night.
Yeah, you can sign me up for it. I'd like to join that conversation.
Yeah, we'll do a part 2 of kind of where we've left off tonight. We got into that discussion, which I've never been able to discuss Steve on air because it doesn't really come up, but it came up tonight. So, and Paulides and Carpenter and
that's all me too.
Yeah, that whole cabal.
The whole podcasting thing. So I don't know though.
So
anyways.
Yeah, we'll pick it up where we left off. We'll do a part 2.
When are we going to do? When are you thinking about doing it?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know that I could do it tomorrow.
No. Save it for a week or something like that.
Yeah. Next week.
Tomorrow night, there's Danielle's got something going on, and then
the weekend. The weekend's kind of booked for stuff. So, So basically, maybe next week we'll everybody do their research. Let's research about these people, and we'll come back together and have this discussion about we'll how about this? We'll make it about like top tier, like big subscriber YouTubers in the Bigfoot world, which Steve obviously is one. I don't really want to talk about Wes because that is what it is. Chronicles, of course. Same kind of thing. It's not the same kind of thing. It's like,
hey,
that show
Germer,
is what it is.
He's actually he's been following my my Bigfoot Radio on Anchor, and every so often he's been giving me some encouragement. He's actually giving me some compliments as well. I'm actually impressed. He says, "You're doing real good on your show. You're doing a lot better,
dude." Yeah,
and I find that encouraging because he's got a big platform. He works with, and
huge platform, and I've talked to Wes several times in the past, and same kind of thing. It's like I'm not trying to go there, but like big YouTubers like Steve Estelle, and that whole cabal. like Paulides. So
you could title it. You could title it "Hot Shots Part 2." You know,
Part 2. Part 2. And I have the Predator missile to fire at them. So, so yeah, we'll leave it at that. I was gonna go around the panel and say, hey, what do you guys think Bigfoot needs to be, or figured out what it is? Like, what are your thoughts? But pretty much ready to just. I'm just gonna end it now, and because we kind of have a teaser, right? Like a little cliffhanger for the next show.
Yeah, I just want to ask Steve a quick question. Steve, when are you on Bigfoot Cafe next week? Or is it next weekend?
Currently it's the 20th.
Okay, thanks.
February 20th for anybody listening after the fact. February 20th, Steve will be on Bigfoot Cafe on the Hidden Existence YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah, that's with Daniela, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Daniela. And I don't know what else.
On the after show, you're on the after show after that, right?
I probably so
will
be.
We get to roast Steve. We get to go after Steve, and he's a guy that can handle it, right, Steve?
Yeah.
Right, buddy?
Yeah, right. Yeah, Steve's going to be in the hot seat that night. Yeah, so
he'll handle that fine.
Of course. Yeah, I'm not. I trust me. I'm not looking forward to intellectually challenging Steve. So we'll see.
No, it's about drawing the data out of his brain so we can learn. That's what it is. That's all it is. He's got a good brain to learn from. So
no, yeah, we have a great group of guys here tonight, like Steve, Brent, Leon, Daniel. You know, not me so much. I'm just a goofball, but
well,
like,
we're a group of Bigfoot scientists without our lab coats.
Yeah, so I mean, you guys are awesome. Everything you have to say is important. It's good for discussion. It moves the ball down the field, and so like I love the fact that we talked about like what to do or what not to do in the woods tonight. Like that was a good discussion. It had nothing to do with Bigfoot.
Somebody probably learned something from it, and that's
and they should because we all know that new people come into the community, right?
Yeah.
You know, every day, and it's
fair
like
to direct them into a better path of more stability versus the good luck on YouTube, Wild West type of thing.
Yeah, and we'd be happy if they're not in the evening news.
Yeah, exactly. Like where just Steve said, he made my point for me is that, you know, some people that come into the Bigfoot world, I would say probably a lot of them don't have a lot of experience in the woods, but they get kind of excited about Bigfoot, right? And hey, all of a sudden I'm going to go out into the woods, right, to look for Bigfoot or to hear if they're knocking or whatever. And so it's always good to, you know, instead of like, here's your Albert Ofsman story, here's your compass and map, you know, be safe, right? Mm-hmm. That kind of thing, like complimentary, welcome to the Bigfoot world, you know?
Yeah, and I think, you know, like we can all make videos to help, you know, with people with that, you know, to help show them that, you know, not every tree breaks a Bigfoot, and it's okay to be wrong, and that it's great to collaborate and work with other people, and how the investigation process goes. Like you need to vet it out, and this is how you vet it out, and this is why it's important, because people are watching now. It's like people aren't accepting what some of these researchers are telling them anymore. You see it on their channel. It's like, oh, I'm so sick of this. It's the same stuff every time, no real evidence, but you know, they got like 40,000 subscribers and stuff. And I think people are ready for something different, for a change. And you know, maybe it's not so much what we're presenting is Bigfoot, but maybe giving them the tools to go find Bigfoot and better understand the videos that they're getting or they're seeing as, you know, they can vet it out better too. So,
and I'll just add this here too, because Larry's mentioning about white papers and stuff. The thing about a white paper is it's already been vetted because it has been in scientific journals. So
They
it's
went
not,
through a process.
it's not, yeah, it's not, it's every other scientist can look at what you're claiming and what you're presenting. They can figure out what formula you're using to get your data, what style of technique you're using to get your data, and that it's neutral. And you can take that same formula or that same pattern of investigation and you will get exactly the same result as the person did in the white paper. That's what makes it a white paper. If it doesn't stand under that scrutiny, then it's not solid. Evidence, if it's factual, it doesn't matter who comes against it, it will stay factual to the end. You can't change it.
Correct.
And we will, and down the road, a different conceptual idea might be involved that's added to that evidence, but that everything builds on this solid evidence block that was prior to it. The next one, the next one. So you can follow all the way back why we know that the sun does not evolve or revolve around the earth.
Right. Right.
For a very long time, but we can go back, find out who figured that out, how they figured it out, and we can all reproduce that as the general population. That's what we need in the Bigfoot community. There's no threat, all of it, and I really appreciate that comment that they made about the white page. So I mean, that's all we're asking. I mean, I know what I'm asking is tough because we like to have lazy thinking, including me. I would rather sit on my couch and do nothing.
Yeah.
But I can't. Yeah, that's the one, Larry. I appreciate that point there. That's the problem. We have to up our game because, again, after having that whole experience with using the BFRO as a research to prove something that's the best Sasquatch trackways of 2020, that's a hell of a declaration to make. The best.
The hell. Yeah.
Out of 2020. Think of all the people who've sent.
He got the attention from it. It's like guerrilla marketing. Todd Standing does the same thing in a way. He just creates he just creates headlines to help promote whatever he's doing at that time. And I think that's what Matt was doing. He compromised his integrity to self-promote.
Guerrilla marketing.
Guerrilla marketing.
How ironic.
Well, yeah. Like when Todd first went missing, you know, how he showed up in the news and stuff. That was all guerrilla marketing. That was all intentional. That's how you can build a name for yourself. His lawsuit that he had, he didn't expect to win or do anything like that. He did that because he knew he was going to get headlines worldwide, and that's going to just point it towards his documentary that was just getting on Netflix. That was the only reason why, in my opinion.
Well, and that happened to us too in regards to the Slocana report. We got great our name out there, all free press. You know, right across Canada, 10 different styles of new agencies, all free press.
That's true.
Yeah,
Leon, like you got a lot of media out of just deciding to go up to that area and look at those tracks. You ended up getting a shit ton of media.
Yeah, but what will piss me off is if he comes back with, well, look at all the free media it got. I'm not on for the free media. I'm on for the truth of the science.
Well, that's
I'm not care about having a big channel. I don't care about having a big channel.
Yeah, that's one of the number one.
Brent, Steve, and I was going to say myself, but I already had myself in that, you know. And then I just met Daniel a couple of weeks ago. So, I mean, it's nice to know that there's other people out there because after 5 years of just dealing with stuff that is not assisting me to find a Sasquatch, that's all I'm online for. You know, I finally made it over 1,000 subscribers. And I wouldn't even say finally made it. I don't care if I'm over 1,000 subscribers. I love everyone who's been supporting me to get to 1,000. But if I can get those 1,000, the right data, the right information, and they teach one other person, now that's 2,000 eyes now that have the scientific ability or methods available to them. And if they each of those do one, that's 6,000. It just multiplies. And it doesn't take that long to get us to shift this wave we're already starting to crest on, or not even crest on it. We're just starting to develop and move forward with is the bottom line is everyone has the right to sit there and say, how is it a Sasquatch? Why is it a Sasquatch? Could you please share what it is that you're looking at and how you're looking at it that tells you it's a Sasquatch? So Leon at home can look and hear what you're saying, and I can say, okay, that's what they're saying. So that's not a tree snap. I can see why that's not a tree snap from 5 other reasons, because there's going to be 5 other reasons for tree snaps. That's not a tree twist from another 5 different reasons. So you can find tree twists in the forest, right? Because whatever the Sasquatch one is going to be, there's going to be a specific thing that I can see and see what they're talking about, which validates the information. Then I can move to the next step, the next step, the next step. We've got to do it that way. We're going to be here 50 years down the road, and I'm sure we'll fabricate and rationalize it all the way of why we're still here. Well, it's because it's not just the galactic and that they can cloak themselves and they go through portals, but and they're also multi-dimensional as well. They actually hide themselves by knitting sophisticated outfits. So they put it overside of themselves and you can't see them. I mean, they'll just get more crazier and crazier and crazier because that's how the brain works to fill in stuff when you're interested about something. Yep. It's not helpful.
So Leon, for some of the news articles that you've been in related to that, does Bigfoot Okanagan on Facebook have links to those?
Yeah, they're all on the page. All the stuff we were on, I put on the page, the radio stations, the country stations, rock stations, the news stations, the newspapers. That's all cataloged, or it's on our webpage. If you go right below where I put you as our main source link at the top in regard to the scientific method in searching for Sasquatch, and you just start scrolling down probably about 3 or 4 videos. You'll start seeing that data start coming up, but you can just scroll down and see that your leisure, whatever you want, kind of stuff, you know. And everyone was really good. I mean, all the press was really good. At least when I talked to them, they really appreciated that we had a scientific approach and stuff. And
yes,
well, we can answer, you know.
I will say this, Leon. You represented the Bigfoot world very well in that kind of in the mainstream media. Obviously,
Thanks.
you know, like you're on a rock station, you're on a local. Whatever
classic country,
yeah, like, you know, whatever remote station they have out there in Canada that, you know,
not remote, that's national. Both those radio stations are national.
No, yeah, you did great, man. It, you know, it kind of reminds me, like, you know, whenever I hear Meldrum, like, have to, like, you know, be in front of people and talk about the Bigfoot world against like, I'm not saying against, but talking to people who are not in the Bigfoot world, he always makes them curious. Meldrum does. He makes them curious about the Bigfoot world. They don't go, oh, that's BS. It's all bears and misidentification. And I would say that you had that similar effect, like Meldrum does. So for you to talk to media, you actually made them curious. Which is okay. Again, that's how we pull people in, right? Like,
well, the funny thing too is, even though I was on the Classic Rock channel, they interviewed me first for about 6 minutes, so they played that interview. But then they discussed it for about 4 hours live with people phoning in, whether Sasquatch was real or not in the Okanagan Valley. Now that was interesting because I got a lot of information right across the valley of what people's perspective of
yes, right there in that area, yes.
which I couldn't have gotten any other way, you know. So it was neat to hear the percentage of people compared to the ones who weren't too sure and the ones that just thought it was garbage and all that kind of stuff. And then because the DJs were stellar enough to be, one's the devil's advocate and the other one's the believer, and the female who was the believer, what's her name, Nicole, I think, she goes, Leon didn't say that. He didn't say that, you know. So she's challenging. I mean, there was a lot of levity, and when I first did the interview with them, they started talking to me, and I hardly had any sleep that night, so I was very scientific in that. And they were interviewing me, recording me, and they said, "We got to stop, Leon." I said, "Okay." And they says, "We got to make this a little more lively. You're very smart, you're very scientific, but you know, this is going on first thing in the morning till almost noon, so we have to have a lot of levity to it." And I said, "Okay, totally gotcha. Let's go." And then that was what you heard, Pat, was that interview part, the second one. So, but I did, because it was like, oh, I was just bagged that I didn't get any sleep that night before that interview. So, and it was at 7 a.m. in the morning, first thing, waking up. It's like, oh.
Well, I mean, I think you could be trusted to represent the Sasquatch phenomenon, is what I call it. Like, that's always how I refer to it. You know, not. You say, you know, Sasquatch phenomena, it's there, it you know, but we don't know what it is. We don't claim to know, you know, what it is. We have our ideas, and they're all over the map, obviously. Yeah. but you did a great job, and yeah. So
thanks for that extra 10 minutes of extra plug PR you just did for on your show.
Right. Well, I am. You know,
I gotta get going. See you guys.
It's another on-air ad. I see, I stuck it in there. So yeah, everybody go check out Leon at Bigfoot Okanagan and his media and the press that he did about that whole moneymaker thing was actually phenomenal. He knocked it out of the park.
Oh,
I love seeing.
You're obviously drinking whiskey again, or something like. It was okay. I'll take the compliment. Oh, thanks.
But yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap it up, guys. We're like 2.5 hours, and even though we got a good live viewership right now, but let's just go around the panel. I will start with Steve. So, final thoughts. What do you think these things are? Like, what's going on? When are we going to see a Bigfoot? Whatever. Go.
What I think they are is mostly the creatures that you're seeing sitting on the panel right here. As far as we observe, they have hands like us. They have feet like us. They have faces like us. There are things that say they're closer to genus Homo than anything else that's currently alive.
All right, fair enough. Brent, what do you think?
I think I don't know, but I hope to find out. And I'm okay with that. You know,
that's okay. Okay, that's just way too smart. Like, that was. Yeah. The perfect answer.
My homeboy.
Yes.
No. No, I mean, I really don't know. It's a mystery that I'm fascinated by, and I just hope to find out. You know, hope to find out.
Yeah, me too, brother. Leon, what do you think? Other than moose offspring hybrids, what do you think?
I don't know what they are either. I'm in Brent's camp too. I know that there's something hairy, like my grandmother was, roaming the bush. Behavior. But as far as that, no, I don't know anything about them. I don't know what they are. That's why I want to see one again. So I'll have a better. After I see one again, I'll have a much better understanding what I think we'll be dealing with. I hope they have a higher sense of conscience availability to them. I hope when I look into their eyes, they don't have the eyes of the wildness. They have the the eyes of intelligence. And that's
what I'm most curious about is that what's in their eye.
Yeah.
As soon as I see that, I'll know if they're consciously aware. So.
Yeah, from everything I hear, I've never seen one, but from the people who I know who have seen one, it seems to be a more like higher intelligence going on. So I'll just interject that into your comment. But so Daniel, what about you? What do you think? Daniel Benoit.
Oh, yeah. Everybody was starting to freeze up on me there for a second.
Come on, Daniel. Come on.
Yeah. You're Daniel, man.
I'm sorry. I know. No, everybody froze up on me. Everybody was, was messing up on my end for some reason.
Sorry.
No, I don't know. I don't know what was going on. I couldn't really hear you guys talk. So, no, if you guys are asking, what do I think they are? In my honest opinion, my opinion is I believe they're simply just an unclassified primate of some sort, waiting to be officially discovered. We're really never going to know until, unfortunately, nobody likes to hear this, until there's a body to study and analyze. So, but again, a lot of people don't like hearing that, but I think it's just a matter of time, maybe. But I just think, I mean, either people want to think they're human or non-human. Either way, if they think they're human or a type of people, I mean, we're considered primates. So, I just think they're undiscovered, unclassified primate of some sort.
Yeah.
And then again, there's a lot of similarities, a lot of similar behaviors and traits that we could compare to other species of non-human primates. There's a lot of similarities involved. So, but
Okay.
yeah, that's the way I look at it. So, and since I'm still talking, I'm going to throw it out there. Mark your calendars, June 26th and June 27th for the annual Virginia Bigfoot Conference, happening right here in Virginia.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, that's going to be
it's
fun.
going down.
Yeah.
And you can get a free membership to go to that if you do what, Daniel?
If you do what?
Yeah.
Yeah. How can you get in for free?
Oh, no.
That was your post. Today you did a post.
Yep.
You
if
said
we
all
if we
members-
reach
all
5,000 members by March 25th, yeah, I think I'm freezing up again. Yeah,
No, you're fine.
if you
You're
guys
good.
reach 5,000 members in our ECBRO Facebook group, yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, everybody
Go
gets free admission. So
Everybody, that's 5,000 people get free
So,
admission.
I don't know-
It's going to be a hell of a show. Oh, he's definitely froze up now.
Yeah, he's a little froze up now.
hold on.
Glad your health is okay, Brent, by the way.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yes,
is very
be
painful.
healthy. I didn't know
Let's
that
try a
was
different
an
angle
issue.
here. I don't know. My Wi-Fi is messing up. I don't know. I got good signal, but somehow it's messing up on my end for some reason.
Well, that's okay. So, man, thanks for being here, everybody. Like, you guys, it's always such a great discussion. And wow, I love that we opened up a can of worms to actually do another show. Which I'm very opinionated on, actually, but because I do have a different angle, and we will do that show. I don't know, maybe next week. We'll see. But like, thank you for being here tonight and chiming in and talking Squatch and wow, we talked like a little bit of how to like survive in the woods and just a good diverse conversation.
Or at least how to survive the woods.
Yeah, or yeah, like how
Bigfoot
not to
community.
get into a position where you need to survive in the woods, like Les Stroud style, I just thank you guys for being here. We still have people watching. Man, I'd love to carry the show on, but I gotta wrap it up. And
That's good. At least I'm with an appetite for the next one.
yeah, and we if we want to talk about the things that we started and cracking there towards the end of this episode, that's going to be an interesting show for sure.
Well, I
So-
like tonight too because I noticed that Brett and Steve were actually interacting with people in the chat, which was really nice to see. I was trying to figure out how are you guys doing that because I can't do it. Other than I guess I have to open another window and then put
Yeah,
it on.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
so
have a tablet. I have a tablet that I just use with the sound down.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's-
Actually, I have a wife on the other end of the house.
there's-
Well, if you're like me, I'm on my phone. If you hit chat, you could go through. Like I'm on my phone. If you hit chat on your phone, I don't know what you're on, Leon, but
But I can't
Well,
write a comment down. That's the thing is where those guys
Oh,
were
right.
writing.
you
I was
have to
trying
have
figure
a separate window open,
That's what I
or
thought.
obviously where the audio is not playing.
See, you guys taught me something new. I didn't know. Now I can do what you guys are doing because I think it's great when the guests are actually talking to the people watching. That's a great little idea. So
Yeah,
hope you guys have a nice week and stuff. By the way, Steve, I'll talk to you soon. Hopefully,
Yeah.
in the near future.
yeah, we'll all
All
talk
right.
soon.
Everyone enjoy their adventures.
absolutely,
All right,
absolutely.
So
Okay.
thanks guys so much for coming on
thank you.
tonight. I know it was kind of on the fly, and each and every one of you jumped in on the fly tonight, and I appreciate that more than you know. We'll plan for next week. I would love to pick up where we left off with some of the things we were talking about, especially my different angle. So like that interests me. So yeah,
Me
thanks
too.
to everybody for watching tonight. Thanks, panel, for being here. Steve, Brent, Leon, Daniel, who's my buddy. That's why I could joke with him about things earlier. And yeah, we'll do it again next week. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. And this is Squatch Talk. Good night.
Alrighty. Whoop, whoop.
Woo-hoo. Woo-hoo.
All right. Good night, guys.
Night, Daniel.
Bye.
Night.